School Board Workshop to order. Please rise for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just before we begin our meeting, I know it's been common practice. I overlooked it at our last workshop, but we have two board members joining us on Zoom today. If the two of you would like, Dr. Burns, if you want to start with a statement, and then Mr. Mathias, if you want to make a statement, that'd be great.
I have a cold, so I'm not sharing it with you guys. Apparently, it's not COVID.
Thank you. Mr. Mathias?
And I actually have COVID, so in the abundance of caution, I'll be Zooming today.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this point, we have public input. I have two cards. We'll start with Kim Cronin from SEIU. I didn't see you, Robin, back there.
Good morning, board members and superintendent. There's been a lot of rumors going around about the charter schools and their contracts, and, we've got a lot of employees that, kind of want to be kept up to date of what's going on. So when I did some research about a month or so ago, what I was told was that Round Lake probably would not be going out on their own next year, and possibly Lake Tech. So I don't see Round Lake on here at all, so I'm just hoping for some answers today. Friday, on my way home from work, I did get calls from employees that were saying that teachers could stay employees of the district for Round Lake next year, but the non-instructional would not. The contract says that you're supposed to give people 60 days notice. It's really nice to be able to give them as much notice as possible. We've had in the past where it was an overnight thing that you're not going to be working here anymore, so I don't want to see that happen. So if we can try to make sure we can keep employees updated, that's what they appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. That will be addressed later. Okay. Okay. And Dr. Tibbetts.
Good morning, board members, near and far, Superintendent Cornegay. I felt compelled to come today and speak with you briefly, even though I can't stay for the entire workshop. I sat there watching all the things that you're going to discuss today, from the IB program to the math adaptation. And it just made me think of, oh, yeah, and parents know best. We have created a culture, somehow, that parents have become expert educators. Moms for Education, school board, advisory, oversight committees, etc. We have legislators with no educational background determining that sensitivity training is bad, supporting the removal of Pulitzer Prize winning books from our libraries, wanting to politicize school board elections, opposed to sensitivity training, basically because there's a need to not have that, because then you can bully, be prejudiced, be biased, but heaven forbid, we teach people to become sensitive. I implore you, keep seeking to have your teachers and the administrators that are here tonight that have put together these programs, trained professionals who know what they're doing, to support them in their efforts. and to avoid this plague that seems to be trying to get a foothold on education. They don't want exploration. They don't want tolerance. They don't want wonder. They want what they define. You, and I say this admirably, over the last 8 years, I've watched the board support the professionals. And until parents get their professional degrees, I implore you to abide by the professionals that provide you with information and guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tibbetts. All right, we are on 3.01. Julie? Sabrina? Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning, Superintendent, Madam Chair, board members, and members of the audience. Florida statutes do require that districts review and vote on charter applications. As a sponsor and our expectation of transparency, we wanted to bring some information to you before seeking your vote. We'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions or provide any clarification. I will be turning it over to Ms. Summerlin gladly, and she will be providing you with an overview of our process, the findings, and the committee's recommendations. So I will turn it over to Ms. Summerlin.
Good morning, all. Thank you for allowing us this time today. We do have 5 renewals that we will be discussing. Before I present the results of the review committee's meetings the week before last, I'd like some direction. Because we have 5 charters for the renewal, the governing board and their leadership team, many of them are out in the wing. So typically, in the past, some of the board members like to ask questions of leadership or the governing board. So at this time, I'd like direction if we would like to take one at a time, and after I get done with the first results, then give you all an opportunity to ask clarifying questions or have comments. Some of the governing board members are obviously stakeholders that represent the community and have work to get back to, and the leadership team does also. So if you can provide me with that direction, then I'll be glad to get started.
What would be the other option if we went?
If we could go through all 5 of them and then come back to look at, like at Lake Tech, and then come back to Mascot.
Okay, I'm just trying to think about their time and what would be the best for them. If we started in order, there's going to be somebody at the end. That's all I was thinking.
There is always somebody at the end. I mean, that's true.
Right, so I didn't know if it'd be
And
more.
we've prepared them both ways, but whatever your preference would be.
So for, I don't think I have an answer to that question yet.
Right.
I was almost leading into my next one, just to understand the timeline of
Okay.
when do we actually vote on the.
Okay, so the applications will be on the board meeting next Monday night, the
Okay.
14th. And then we go into contract negotiations after that. So this process is just really starting from your perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm feeling a little bit of a challenge here, because I am somebody who meticulously reads everything, and there were thousands of pages on board docs, with 5 of them aligning for renewal at the same time, and I mean, just as we're just trying to process how to even get 5 presentations through here, you can imagine the challenge that we have as a board member is to figure out how to adequately look at and read all this stuff without just blindly voting on it. So I don't know where the statutory timeline falls, but I don't know if in the future there's a way to do a little more staggering on this kind of thing, or.
Well, these 5 contracts expire June 30. And so statutorily, we have to have, after the the application is approved, the district has 30 days to give the school a contract. And then there's 40 days of negotiation. But you have to back it up 30 days because they have to have notice. So you're right, it is very time crunch.
Yeah. I guess it just would have been nicer if we had maybe a couple, and then a couple more, and then another one. I don't know, just 5 at once is, I mean, for instance, Aaliyah's charter application alone is 603 pages. You know, I just, I don't know. You know, so
Okay.
I guess what I'm, and I don't know if I'm just speaking, you know, blindly, or if the rest of you feel this way too, but it's a struggle to think about how to formulate all the questions I'm going to have on these applications. I'm not going to be able to ask them all today because I haven't been able to read all thousands of pages, you know, and so now on the 14th, when these come up for renewal, I may have a lot more questions, you know, and so I don't know. So
Well,
today might be a little bit brief for me.
Okay, and they understand, I encourage them to be at that board workshop, board meeting next week also. So they are prepared to be here for that. It is tentatively on the consent agenda. We could always push it to the discussion. But again, and then if still the comfort level isn't there, we could take the ones that you are comfortable with and have those approved, and then the ones that you still need more conversation about, we could table that.
I have two thoughts, but I wanted to hear what you were going to say first.
Well, I was gonna say, in keeping with what he's saying, there was a lot of reading. Is it possible to take them one at a time? I believe that was your first option. And that way I don't have to try to remember what I have a problem with in one versus the other. If I
Yes,
can do
ma'am.
one at a time. I realize that may take more time, and I apologize for someone having to wait. But I think in order to do a thorough job, we need to be able to know what it is we're voting on.
Well, and I'm wondering as well, just to jump onto that and thinking about the time frame. I don't know if they were similar to me, but I got about a third of the way through. So I'm wondering if you couldn't, would there be a problem with the February 28th board meeting, moving some of these to the February 28th regular school board meeting for voting?
We can do, if that's your preference, yes,
And then
ma'am.
they would know right now that these will be talked about. Do we have a workshop before then?
We do not. We would have to schedule another one. There's not, I was just looking at that actually. There's President's Day, which is a student that day. And then there's a regular board meeting, and those are the only 2 Mondays left prior to the 28th. So it would have to be a non-Monday.
Would you guys prefer that?
I'd be okay with that if.
Zoom, do my board members on Zoom, what do you? Hello?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Okay. I am out of town February 24th and tomorrow. That's not a big deal. Wednesday and Thursday. I teach Tuesday afternoons, but Tuesday mornings I'm okay. I think that would just be in the best interest, and we wouldn't be sitting here and trying to go through it thoroughly, and then they're waiting for.
So you would like to have another workshop that week? Okay, so you've got the 22nd in the morning.
What day of the week is that?
It's Tuesday? Tuesday morning?
I
What
know,
time,
she
what
said
time
I
do you
can't.
need?
I think she said I can't.
I'm out of the country, but that doesn't mean anything.
Fourth is a Thursday.
That's the day that I'll be out of town.
Oh, you just said.
I won't be in Florida. What about the 23rd, Wednesday?
Morning of the,
Can you guys do the morning of the 23rd? Dr. Burns?
we,
Reschedule that?
yeah, there's more discussion on that
Okay.
possible meeting too.
All right. We had a meeting with the community group, but
Oh, gotcha.
we can reschedule that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've already reached out maybe to potentially do that a little differently, so.
Okay, all right.
You can do
That's
that
good for me,
date.
too.
We can do the 20th.
And I'm flying, that's the day I'm flying in, so I'll do the best I can to get there. I think I get in at 7:50 in the morning.
Oh, that'd
Oh.
be perfect timing.
Yeah.
Well, just
The
come
airport
right
never
here.
has any delays.
Welcome home, yeah. Later in the morning.
I was gonna say Thursday, or what about Friday the 25th? Would that not be? I'll be home late Thursday night,
Well, I'll just cancel.
Fridays. Okay. We can keep it Thursday, the 23rd, the morning of the 23rd. I can get a late flight. Okay, so I guess my question now would be, have you already presented this order to them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we want to let, who's at the back, Ali, Spring Creek, Mineola, or do you want to do the 3 today and just say, tell Spring Creek and Ali? 2 I looked at, actually. Now that I'm looking at the order, but that's fine.
I started at the back and went forward, so.
Okay, so we could start with Ali and Spring Creek and then do these other 3. Or do you guys want to do 3 this morning, or do you want to do 2 this morning? I don't have anything on my plate this morning, so. If we're here, we can do 3.
What time do you need to leave, get your kid?
Probably around 1-ish.
Let's try for 3.
All right, let's see how that goes.
Okay, so if we want to let Mascot and Lake Tech know that we'll bring them back on the morning of the 23rd.
Okay.
And then they don't have to wait, and everybody can get back to what they need to do. And then if we could work backwards, that'd be wonderful.
So that was Lake Tech and Mascot?
Yeah, if I'm looking at the order of your notebook.
Okay, all right. So Ms. Dillon Banks is going to go let them know.
Great.
So,
They're actually the 2 in the rooms.
oh,
Mineola's in the room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Lake Tech.
all right. So, let me briefly start. Let's see here.
Maybe.
That helps.
You're gonna have to. Sure. Thank you.
So you'll want to use the down arrow. Up would be further up in your presentation. Down is down slides.
Okay, sorry. All right. So as I had mentioned, there were 5. 4 of them are charter schools. Ali Academy is a startup charter. And as Ms. Dillon Banks explained, the purpose is to meet charter law. There are justifications for a non-renewal or termination. However, the student academic achievement is the priority as in the review process. This is the timeline of how we proceeded through this process. Actually, in August and September, the charter office met with governing board and administration at each school to explain the process. In November and December, district staff went to the site and completed their visits. The applications were due January 5th. The charter committee review met week before last, the 25th and 27th. We are on the board workshop right now, and then the tentative plan was to have them on the February 14th board meeting, then work through the contract approval process and have that completed by May 9th. These are the members' titles of the committee. So we had well representation of district staff. Similar to a new application, there's 3 performance areas: education, financial, and organizational performance. And the same ratings are applicable: meets the standard, partially meets the standard, and does not meet the standard. Before we get started, I'd like to orient you on the notebook that you were provided. Obviously, the tab that says presentation, that's a hard copy of what I'm going through right now. And then there's an evaluation compilation. So we have each school's compilation of the evaluation instrument. And so all the committee members' input was collected, and so it's under each one. So when I go through the presentation, what you'll be seeing is overall assessment. So that's a compilation of what the committee members voted, but it's important that you know where that came from, and so that's what is in here. So we're not doing Lake Tech. And we are on Mineola Charter School. All right. So as you can see here, The Mineola Charter School, the committee voted that all focus areas met in the performance sections, and they meet the standards. So since this is the first one, I'll kind of take a moment to talk it through. As you can see on the left-hand side, the performance area under educational performance, there are 3 focus areas: state accountability, school-based accountability, and educational program implementation. And when you go back and you look at those evaluation instruments, those indicators have standards and criteria that were met. So in this area, there were 11 folks that were on that committee that voted, and they voted under educational performance that the school met the standard. Under fiscal performance, there was 2 focus areas, one under financial management and the second under financial viability. And the committee felt that they met in both of those. And finally, under organizational performance, there's student enrollment and conduct, governance, staff and parents, and facilities. And again, the committee felt that they met that in all areas. In the overall assessment section, the one comment was that was made was regarding the finance area. During the process, the governing board signed a letter of intent explaining what they intended to do, and that was what, on their part, what starts the process. And in there, they requested a 20-year contract. Statute does allow for a contract longer than 5 years, but the recommendation by statute, they may be granted based on academics. So the qualification by statute 1002.337C2 says that a 15-year can be granted if the school grade of an A or B was earned in the last 3 to 4 years, 3 of the past 4 years, and obviously they qualify. So citing that information, the committee felt that the governing board request for a 20-year contract should not be accepted, and that instead this should follow statutory language. And obviously, here's some of the comments that they made. So overall, the committee's recommendation to the superintendent is for approval of the renewal contract for a 15-year term. So that concludes Mineola's section. Again, we do have district staff in the room. I know you haven't had probably as much time to delve into it. But we have district staff, we have the leadership team, and I'm sure we have some governing board members behind me. So if you'll let me know.
Can I ask why 15, like a normal or a typical charter has a 5-year contract and then a recheck. Why 15?
The statute, yes, ma'am. The statute has changed recently, and the statute now allows for 2 reasons to go to a 15-year. One is for financial obligations if they're going to be doing construction, and the second is because of if they've earned A or B in the last 3 of the 4 years. That is a recent statutory change.
So we don't have. Sorry.
Yeah, so is our ability, like, do we have the ability to have less of to like say a 5-year contract, to negotiate for a 5-year contract, for example? Because we've seen, like, we can't see in the future, and we have seen big changes in some charters happen in 5 years where it was a good choice that they were reevaluated, and then we could provide some help and then get them back on track. 15 years is you know, a generation almost.
But you always have
It's
that
more like,
opportunity.
it's like a house loan.
Yes.
If the school, and how frequently within that 15 years would we monitor that?
We
How is
still
that?
annually monitor them, and they are subject to a deeper every 5.
Okay. So even if we agreed on a 15-year contract, we would
Oh.
have the opportunity to review that contract at any
Right.
time based on any of the data?
If we had, yes, if we could cite qualifying incidents, yes.
Okay. Does that make sense?
And what,
Mhm.
Yeah, that does, that makes good sense. What kind of qualifying, does it has to be a violation of law, or what would be qualifying? Like, how hard is it to review these?
Well, our district staff every year review them. We always look at data, and academics is the main thing, but obviously fiscal responsibility is another huge piece. HR is involved because they monitor out of field, they monitor certificates. So there is an annual review process going along. It's just kind of like the statute read as far as not renewing or terminating a contract. The district would have to be able to cite concise reasons on why it wouldn't be a valid renewal or
And can you remind me what sort of school grades or pattern of grades that they would need to result in for us to revoke a charter?
Ds and Fs. There's a whole section in charter law regarding, but we have to work with them. They have to do a
Right.
school improvement plan. There is a process in that.
I will tell you, the length of time is kind of surprising to me that 20 years could even be possible through statute, that kids born 2 years from now would be
Right.
graduating high school before you even renew, or look at that charter contract again. And, so that being said, this is a new statute, right? So we
It's
don't have any
relevant.
other 15 years currently in our district?
I'm sorry?
We don't have any other schools on this length of a contract in our district now?
Well, high performing, like one of the Pinecrest
right.
schools. But other than that, no.
And how long is that term?
It's 15.
15, okay.
I'm just curious, one of the members commented that the school gave no justification for the 20-year. Did we ask them?
We did.
And what was their response?
That this process was a lot of work, and they felt like 20 years was a reasonable request.
Thank you.
Is someone there from Mineola?
Yes.
Yeah. Could they speak, I don't believe their response would be it was a lot of work. Could they articulate why they are asking for 15?
So we just recently came off of a 15-year contract. So we've been in a 15-year contract with the district. So that's why we're asking for 15 to 20. We asked for 20 because it doesn't say that we can't ask for that. So we asked for 15 or 20, figuring that you would not go for that and negotiate it back to 15. So I did say it was a lot of work, though. I did say that, Bill. So, and I think for us is that we have been a solid performing school, fiscally responsible. We work closely with the district. The district does come in and bring many of the people here to our school every year. They spend 2 to 3 hours there going through different things. You will have oversight of us annually. You can come in at any time. So our hopes is we get the 15, we shot for the 20, figuring that you were never gonna go for that. So, and then my board chair is here too, if you wanna ask her any questions as well. So we found the process valuable. It did take a lot of work. Just like you're saying, it's a lot to read, it was a lot to put together. Was it valuable in the fact that it gave us a chance to reflect? It also gave us a chance to look at everything and go, we are doing more than we actually think that we are, and we now have it in writing. So it was a positive process, but it was a long one. So our hopes, because we had a 15-year contract, is that you'll give us another one.
Mrs. Watts?
Yes.
You also, with your recent renovation, doesn't that give some stability to your ability to continue to expand or make plans for that?
Yes, and we've purchased the 24 acres that's adjacent to our property with the plans to expand, and that will occur before 15 years. So we'll have to
Right.
come back to you when that process starts too. So there will be a whole new contract negotiation. So we'll be back before the 15 years at that point. We're talking to the air, Bill.
How long can you tread water?
Well, we'll see.
No. That's an old Bill Cosby.
I
joke about
understand. I got you.
I happen to know the leadership and have followed the successes at Mineola. I would support the 15 years.
I was perusing the demographic data and the students, so there was a statement on here that just said that the school's population is aligned with consistent enrollment from, I can't find it now, but, because I was looking for it, but it talks about the school's demographics being similar to those around it, and the school's ESE and ESOL population being similar to the ones around it, but this report is being silly. So it looks similar-ish to Grassy Lake, but it doesn't look similar at all to Claremont. So I was just wondering where you guys, who pulls that to make that statement that the population is similar? And define similar.
That was actually the district that wrote that statement in
Right.
the evaluation,
Okay, that's why I
not,
was curious.
yeah.
That's why I looked at Dr.
not us.
here.
The zone that we draw from,
Thank you.
our preference zone is actually much more similar to Grassy Lake because it's the area directly surrounding our school, whereas Claremont is a lot farther south than us. So we're 2 blocks from Grassy
Right, I
Lake.
know you could throw a rock and hit it, right. Dr. Banks, were you guys just looking at Grassy Lake, or is Mrs. Summerlin?
Yeah, I'll
Were
have
you
to
guys
go
just
through
looking
answer
at
that.
Grassy Lake when you made that statement?
Committee member made that, I would not be able to speak off, I don't know which committee member made that comment, but to your point, it is different than Grassy, it is similar to Grassy Lake, it's different than Claremont, but I can get you that information and get back to you on
I
that.
think another valid comparison would be Astatula, since many of those kids living around there are zoned for Astatula. Which kind of leads me into a question where I just need maybe a little refresher, reminder on the attendance boundaries. I know that one call that I've fielded, I can't even tell you countless times over the years, is that somebody goes on their website, they think they're zoned for Mineola Charter, they go there and you say, I'm sorry, we don't have room for you, and then it goes to default, their secondary boundary, which is Astatula, and they go, wait a second here, I can see Grassy Lake, I can see Mineola from here, why am I going to Astatula? And so, can you remind me of where we are on those attendance boundaries, and is that even going to be, are there even going to be boundaries on our website, or what happens there?
It's actually not our website, it's the district's.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the district's website, and I actually just checked the other day, for a student, and it still is showing us as a primary zone instead of a secondary zone, but our preference zone, the area that we accept, take as a preference choice is directly around the school in Mineola.
Correct. And with the rezoning, it was requested that we take a preference be given to the students that reside in the city of Mineola. So we know that the preference zone is going away. So we won't have that. There shouldn't even be a preference zone anymore or the secondary piece. Originally, we had the preference zone in the boundaries, but when they did the rezoning, that was a discussion that they were gonna take away the preference zone, and that we were asked to take to preference students that were living in the city of Mineola.
So going forward with the rezoning, I wish my memory would serve me well on this. So when you look at our website now, still lists them as a primary or as a secondary?
It still lists us as a primary.
Still as a primary. And so I think that's my challenge. But I think when I asked about this a couple of years ago was, contractually we had to give them an attendance boundary. So now that we've got a new contract coming up, can we eliminate the attendance boundary so if somebody looks on the website, they don't see?
It is being eliminated.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that should be corrected, because
Okay.
from what I understand now, and I was on the committee, they asked me to be on that, from what I understand, they are taking away our preference zone. So we
Okay.
will not have students that are quote zoned
That's right.
to us,
Right. And
yes,
so every kid would truly be
They would
choosing the
apply,
school.
correct.
Right, okay.
yes.
I have spoken to growth planning, and she confirmed that statement.
All right, very good.
Any other questions? Mrs. Cunningham or Dr. Burns? Are you?
Dr. Burns, you can go first.
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't have a question. I would just have a small statement. As a past administrator at Mineola, I'm very familiar with them and what they are about, so I can support the 15-year contract.
So I think my other question is gonna kind of be maybe, I don't know if it's a recurring one or just looking at all of these conversions as we start to navigate, so I understand. This process of conversions going out on their own, so to speak. So I don't know if there's somebody from the district who's best able to answer this question as to what does that look like for our employees in response to Ms. Cronin's question there, instructional, non-instructional, is there the option for, who has that option? Are we giving employees the option? Are you giving employees that option? Are employees picking it? I just don't know how it works.
So the district and previous board, right, the district requested that our employees were no longer a part of Lake County Schools upon the contract renewal. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
So we have been working with the district staff to do that. So Mr. Zamora, Mr. Farnsworth, and Mr. Ward were meeting this Friday to really put out the specifics. But they have been in communication. So right now, my faculty and staff are having to let me know by March 1st whether it is their intention to remain with the district or to convert over to Mineola charter employees.
Okay.
So we've talked about that. If the people that are really impacted are the PSC people. So the understanding is if they stay with us, they're losing their PSC status. Now, according to your board policy, they can request an annual leave every year from the board to teach at a charter school, which would freeze their PSC status with you. But it would have to be something that they apply for every year that you would have to approve.
I see.
The leave would be frozen with the district at that point in time, so they wouldn't accrue any more leave with you because they would be generating leave with us. Our board, at our last board meeting, voted to buy all the leave of our employees that choose to stay with us from the board. So
Okay.
we would absorb it and take it on our books, because most of them are ours anyway. We pay their leave anyway.
Okay.
So we are in that process, and we're working on the benefits packages and things like that, but Friday is our meeting with the HR people.
So I guess thinking of benefits, one of the biggest comes to mind is retirement or FRS, right?
We are FRS.
So
We've
you'd be
we've-
FRS, okay.
We voted to do that, and we've already started the process. And Our
Okay.
accountant's been working on that, so our employees will remain FRS, yes.
All right. Okay.
A really big deal.
Yeah.
If we wanted to lose everybody, we would have chosen not to.
That's right. That's right.
So, that was never an option, right?
All right.
I think just going forward for me, I'd like to see those percentages. So I looked them up for myself, and the Mineola charter has the lowest percentage of students with disabilities or ESOL students comparatively to Asatula, to your point, and to Grassy Lake. And so when we compare that, and we're talking about the students that we serve and being selective and opportunity to be a true choice school, I don't know what our role in regards to those demographics are, but I'd like the numbers.
Okay.
But other than that, I support a 15-year renewal as well. Okay, is that everything you want?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what page are we on?
That's all for Mineola.
That's
That's
a,
all for Mineola.
from Mineola?
Or Spring Creek.
Madam Chairman, I was a little different because
Microphone?
it's a unanimous statement that you're going to renew or accept the application. I think it's appropriate to at least make an offer to Mineola if they have anything else that they want to present that's related to their application here today, that they be given a few minutes to do so. If they don't, that's fine too.
Okay, do you guys have anything that you want to add to your application? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. If you want to come up to the microphone. Okay.
No, you're fine. Good morning. Thank you for having us today. My name is Janelle Plouffe, and I am the chair for Mineola Charter. I just, wanted to reiterate that our school is, fiscally and academically stable. The school grade has risen over the last few years, and I'm really proud to be a part of the board. I've seen a lot of changes within the school. I've seen our student population raise from 1,100 to 1,800 approximately over the last several years. And as they brought the middle schools on, they did it very methodically. They did it very thoughtful. So they brought the 6th grade on, really learned from what that was bringing on, then put 7th grade in, then put 8th grade in. So it was a 3-year process. And really, when we thought about the gym and how much that would bring to the school and the students and the camaraderie, that was a really great addition to the school. And we've worked very, very closely, obviously, with our construction company who has, brought forth that school, the gym, and looking forward to many future enhancements. So thank you all for your support. We truly appreciate it. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer any.
Here it is right here.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. Now we'll move on to Spring Creek. Again, this is the overall assessment of the evaluation tool Compilation. So again, as you can see, all the focus areas in each of the 3 performance sections have met the standard according to the committee. Let me give them time to get in.
Yeah, thank you.
Some of the summary comments made by the committee is they commented on the community that it serves, the anchor it provides the students and their families, that's recognized for the adaptations to the circumstances of the students, and some of that was from the capacity interview conversation that was provided. And also, they were recognized as being a school model regarding safety and security. Finally, the committee's recommendation to the superintendent will be approval of the renewal contract.
I'm sorry, I was
Any-
reading.
No, that's all good. I was giving you a second. I know that was a quick.
That was really quick. You just went right through it.
I
You said
did.
We're doing renewal.
I
This is
did.
what the committee said, and we're done. I was focused on that. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, for me, I think the only one I have is just that recurring question of what happens to employees
Okay.
with the renewal.
All right.
It would be good, are all of the charter schools that are looking at converting their employees involved in the meeting that Mrs. Watts was talking about, like Friday? And you guys have been working closely.
My meeting is tomorrow at 1:30.
Okay, so everybody's got their own meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to clarify one thing. Round Lake's charter is not expired this year. They have another year.
Okay, so they won't be moving. Thank you.
And I'll just speak for Spring Creek, but we have currently close to 50 employees that are our employees. They're on our HR system. We have an HR company that provides us benefits. They have Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance, very similar to the districts. And we are also an FRS school, so that process was completed last year. So all our employees will, basically the way FRS explains it is they flip a switch. There's really nothing to it. Everything they've earned as a district employee will transfer over when they become our employees. The only people we don't have on our HR system right now is the instructional staff. We have, I'll meet with Mr. Ward and Mr. Farnsworth and Mr. Zamora tomorrow to kind of finalize what that looks like and how we make that transition smooth. One thing we're doing is ensuring that the folks who are transferring over to us, their insurance with the school district will cover them through September 1st, and our insurance will pick them up prior to their insurance with the district expiring, so we don't have any gap in insurance coverage there for them. And, I think we're pretty much ready to go when it comes to HR. We've put everything, we knew this was coming for a while, so we put everything in place ahead of time, and, I think for the most part, we've done it now for a year, so we know how to get everybody else in there now. And the only thing I will say is that we also asked for a 15-year contract, and I wanted to clarify something that I think all of our conversion charters had a 15-year contract, this past contract, so it's not a new request. The reason we would like to have 15 is in our situation, currently every classroom I have is being used. I don't have any space at all. Our middle school students are in the same wing as our 5th grade students. I would like to, or the board would like to eventually build a 6-room wing to move our middle school students out in their own building. It would not be an increase in student count. It would basically just allow us to separate the middle school from the elementary school. And then we'd also like to build a gymnasium to that, one for our school community, but also for the Paisley community, the area that we service. There's not much out there for for kids after school and that kind of thing, and we hope that this would help us generate some things that we could get some sports activities in the afternoon for the kids and that kind of thing. So that's kind of why we're asking for the 15 years. And, you know, we were the first conversion charter school in the state. We've been doing this for 25 years, and have had a good relationship with the district the whole time, and I don't see that changing. You know, I've often said that my goal as the administrator is that we're a team with the district. I don't want to, in no way do I want to have any kind of adversarial relationship with the district, because we're all doing the same thing for the same kids. So that's us. Any other questions?
Dr. Burns and Mr. Mathias, are you guys good?
I just wanted to support Mr. Locke. I had my son at Spring Creek. I've had my kids in public here and private here and charter schools here, and Spring Creek is an excellent school. And he has been building the community out in Paisley for as long as he's been there. And when he talks about the fact that there's not a lot in Paisley, he's right. Like, I know Paisley is, we had cows out there when I was a kid. So
We still have those.
yeah.
We have one on campus right now, as a matter of fact.
So I just know how much he's worked to support the community and the students, and how the students there are very low socioeconomic kids, and this school has really pulled together, and they're really educating these kids and doing a great job at it. And so I am in full support of a 15-year renewal for this school, for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. Mr.
And
Mathias?
I had the opportunity to shake hands with Mr. Locke about 11 years ago. And what I can say about him as a leader is a very steady hand. He had a vision of how to build culture within his school and within the community, and we're seeing the results of that. He has 100% my support for 15 years.
Great, thank you.
I have just a couple, I think I know the answer, but I just want to verify. Did you also, how are you?
Hey, Mike.
Hi. Did you also purchase your employees' leave?
Yes.
Okay, and the other one, Mrs. Cronin spoke to us earlier this morning about the employees being a little confused as to what their status was. I'm assuming, knowing you, that you've been having conversations with them and they know where you are in the process.
Yeah, we talk about it, we've talked about it quite a bit,
Okay.
and monthly, and we have a committee at school, the Charter Transition Committee, and so if they have questions, they submit them to the committee talks about them, so there's a lot of communication that has been going on. I don't think any of our folks are unclear about the
Okay.
process.
Okay. And you have land already to accommodate the new buildings that you
There's
plan?
property there now that, it is district property, so we would have to come back and ask you all for permission to do anything when we get to that point. But we just felt like, we would like to do that in the coming future. And if we are to get financing would be a real struggle if we only had a 5-year contract with the district. So, most banks wouldn't even look at us at that point.
Well, Mr. Locke and I go back much further than I care to mention, so I certainly support their 15-year bid for contract.
All right.
So just, and this isn't a Spring Creek specific question, but just
Sure.
as I'm trying to understand this whole transition of employees. So obviously as these folks go out on their own, it's your own pay scale, right? They're no longer tied to district scale and that sort of thing. And so with that, I guess I'm just as I'm thinking about all these, is the organization going to be able to sustain a competitive salary, right? Because obviously we want you to be able to have high quality teachers for your kids, and I just know in the past, not you, other charters have come forth with really low salary expectations, and so I guess that's just one I want to put on the horizon going, I don't even know who they're going to be able to hire for that.
Well, and I think that's our, at this point, that's up to us to,
Right.
And if we don't provide a package that is attractive, then, that's gonna be our issue. I know for Spring Creek, I feel pretty confident that what we are offering to our classified folks and to our instructional people is comparable with the district. And a lot of that comes down to when we can save money in other aspects of running the school, that gives us the opportunity to put it towards salaries. It's the same way that you all do. You know, salary is the biggest budgetary item in any system. So that's why we try to be efficient, so that we can put it back towards salaries.
So then if these folks are no longer our employees, I guess that we don't advertise the positions anymore, right? So
Correct.
Each school individually, we need to advertise, hey, I've got a job available for you. I wonder if how that will impact the number or quality of applicants. I don't know. I guess that's a challenge y'all are
Well, I
gonna
mean,
work through and
so
figure out.
the way we look at it is the other charter schools are in that same situation. So,
Right.
And they managed to do it. So we think we can pull it off.
The other piece I heard was that, and I don't know if this is true or not, maybe somebody from the district can tell me, but the charters are not subject to the 150% salary rule. Is that true?
In statute?
You know, that 150, until we raise the starting salary to 47.5, you know, the
No,
raise
we're
has to be-
still.
Are you subject to that?
We are still subject to that. We're still a public school, so we're subject to that.
Okay. Somebody from another charter school told me that you weren't, so.
As far as I understand, and what my attorneys told me is that we are.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Did anyone else, I'm just thinking of what Mr. Johnson said, but did anybody else from your board or from your school want to speak to your charter application or
Anybody?
add any comments? Welcome them.
We're good.
Okay, thank you for being here this morning. Okay.
All right. Moving on to Ali. As you all know, Ali is an alternative school that takes at-risk and former dropout students and gives them the opportunity to complete their coursework and to earn a high school diploma. And now, wait a second. My eyes in the back of my head aren't working. Okay.
Thank you.
So, you've seen this form before. So this is the overall compilation of the evaluation instrument for the district. So I want to go through this a little bit closer this time. As you can see, the committee members all concurred that the three focus areas that fully met the standard were state accountability, state accountability, student enrollment and conduct, and the facilities. However, it is important to note that three focus areas had votes split between meets and partially meets, and those were educational program implementation, financial viability, and governance, staffing, and parents. One focus area was financial management was rated as only partially met, and the one focus area was divided between partially and does not meet the standard, and that was school-based accountability. So overall, all three performance sections had one or more focus area with a rating that with less than meets the standard. So, again, this was pulled from the overall assessment comments. Although improvements are needed in order to demonstrate professional competency in financial operation and adherence to general accepted accounting principles, the finance department is recommending renewal of the academy, Lee Academy. But the conversation for the review committee started looking at the contract and going back and reviewing comments that were made in the compilation. So let me provide you with some more detail about the evaluation instrument. To recap comments under the educational performance, some statements were made that the details were missing, and so it was difficult to have a complete understanding of the educational performance area. During past site visits, we've talked earlier about our annual monitoring, district staff has supported and coached school staff and leadership in areas of concerns, but those changes had not been made the following year when revisited. The review committee, however, did recognize that some of the issues had to do with the state's, the school's model that didn't align with DOE's criteria. For example, graduation rate. Graduation rate is based on 4 years. Ali gets a lot of these juniors and seniors, 11th to 12th graders who don't have enough credits. So they're in 9th or maybe 10th grade, so there's no way it would be very difficult to get them caught up. So they acknowledge that. And they also acknowledge that the governing board has made some recent changes, assumingly because they've identified items and they're working on it. And during the review committee's meeting with the governing board and leadership, those conversations were had. Under financial performance, these were the key items that the finance committee found. Specifically under budgeting, although the governing board does approve a budget every year, the amendments or adjustments required throughout the year were not made in a timely manner. Also, the finance committee reported that the school had not provided evidence of professional competency and sound financial operations while adhering to generally accepted accounting principles. Regarding organizational performance, hiring out of field teachers has been an ongoing issue in the past years. The situation occurred again this year. However, the district acknowledged that they're having issues too, so So, in conclusion, because of these reasons mentioned, the committee plans to recommend to the superintendent approval of the renewal charter, however, for a contract period not to exceed 3 years.
That was going to be my question, is what is I know you said the committee was recommending approval, but I was wondering the years that you were, because as you indicated, they have made some administrative changes, the board has made some changes, and there are some things that are being put into place that are evident in this document, but I'm not sure the time frame that they've had to institute the changes is, you're not going to see those changes and the fruition of the actions happen just yet, so I was concerned that would be portrayed, so.
Right. So the way it was worded said up to 3 years. The committee kind of was split on 2 or 3, acknowledging that 1 wouldn't give them time to have evidence.
Right.
But some felt 2, some felt 3.
Okay. Did we want to hear from anyone from Elaine? Does anyone want to come speak in regards to the charter application?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cindy Emmerich. I am the new director at Ali Academy. As it has been mentioned in the previous years, there have been notable things that have happened or not happened. And so this year, we have made a vast change to many of the processes. I want to thank the leadership that I've gotten from Ms. Summerlin and Ms. Howard at the Charter Division. They have been phenomenal to help us with things that we didn't know, things that are new. I would just like to say that our population is a challenge. And so we have kids that are coming to us because they have yet to be successful. And I don't want to ever be a competitor with the district. I just want to be a resource. And that's what I think Ali has in our favor, is that we are a resource for those students. Ms. Carnegie has done amazing things with the academies that have gone into the other schools. But the reality for our students is that that's great if they can get to those academies, but the problem with them is that they're so far behind for whatever reason, and then you add COVID on top of that, and now we've got even more of a problem. And so what I've talked with several of the principals about is having that relationship where we get those kids to us, let us help them get to where they need to be, put them back on track, get them, into the right grade level, and then send them back to their other school, to their district school, so that they can go into those academies, or they can graduate with their friends and their, their cohort. Unfortunately, it's not a huge reality for us that they will graduate in that 4 years. As Ms. Summerlin said, it's very hard to get them before 2 or 3 years has gone by and they haven't passed credits, or whatever their circumstances are. The stories of many of our students is absolutely heartbreaking. And so if we're getting them on our campus, they have to learn how to trust us. We have to show them that we're not going to give up on them. Sometimes it doesn't happen in a year. Sometimes it doesn't happen in 2. So our mission is to get those kids to become productive members of society. They are our community. Many of our students will go to the military. Many of our students have gone into college or technical school. And that's what we praise. Those are our little celebrations. Those are our little victories. Our data is always deceptive. The accountability, the assessments that are given by the state's calculations, those are students that are first-time test takers. We don't have very many first-time test takers. They're usually, a retaker for the 3rd or 4th time. So our data is never gonna look good if that's what that's what we're here for. So I just urge you to kind of look beyond the data because it will be deceiving all the time, and that's a reality for us. We have gotten, I know that the teachers out of field is an issue. I think it's an issue everywhere. But I have been blessed to find some really caring folks to join our team this year. And while they are not traditional teachers coming with a background in education, many of them have gone on to pursue their subject area testing. So they are in process of getting their certifications aligned with what subjects they're teaching. So we have a lot of work to do. There is a lot of work to be done. But if we don't exist, I don't know what happens to these children. And that is, I'm not trying to play on heartstrings. I'm just saying I don't know what happens to them at this point. We've got a very solid team between myself, my leadership team at the school level, and our governing board. So,
Can you speak at all about the accounting and the changes maybe for the financial?
sure. I know that, now I have been at ALE for about 13 years prior to taking this position. So a lot of that is a little foreign to me, except for when I took the job a couple weeks before school started. The accounting situation has been rectified with our accounting firm. Apparently they weren't using Redbook, and so the matchup with what they were doing to keep records was not in line with the district. And so that was changed, that has been fixed, and so now they are reporting. So Mr. Ward, I haven't heard anything from him regarding any issues going forward.
Board members, did you guys have questions or comments and Mr. Mathias and Dr. Burns?
I'll lead out on this. So, first of all, you inherited quite a bag at LE. So I praise you, and I praise the board for coming forward and acknowledging they had issues prior to this application. But what is your student population right now?
Well, right now, we actually went from having 120 at the beginning of the year to 198. And we technically now have spots for 2 more students because we can really only house 200 based on the 25 students per teacher ratio, so.
Mm-hmm. But does that make you sustainable at even 200 financially?
Financially, it will. It doesn't leave a lot of room for growth. However, we have entertained and been discussing some other options. We used to have our second session, which was our night school. That was the population that would come from the Department of Juvenile Justice and transition back into the traditional learning environment. We got rid of that because we were not seeing that there was not much viability there. We have attempted to change our schedule to meet the needs of our students and our parents. At one point, we had Monday through Friday, 7 to 12, and they would get off at 12. Many of our students have families of their own, or they are contributing factors to their own homes, so they have jobs. And so we thought, well, if we could give them a leg up, if they got out at noon, they would have a leg up to have, maybe not stay out so late at night, or beat all the other kids that are high school kids getting jobs. And that worked. It didn't leave a lot of time for collaboration with the teachers, and so after we surveyed the students, it really wasn't really a major factor. However, just this year and probably last year, maybe the year before, I have had several of our students that, for whatever their circumstances, left us, did not get their diploma, left us with 2 or 3 or maybe 5 credits to go, which is absolutely the most frustrating thing. But they needed to do what they had to do. And so they've come back to us. I've had at least a dozen over the last 2 years come to us and say, what can I do? And while there's nothing wrong with getting a GED, I'm perfectly supportive of that. I feel like that's not the only option left. There's got to be an adult high school option. And for students that need to work a full-time job, maybe they need to be able to come in a couple of nights a week for an hour or two just to get some additional support. Maybe they need to attend a full-time at nighttime program. These are things that we've been talking about, and there's so many of them that are 23, 24, and they need that. And I would like to partner up with Lake Tech. I want to see how we can support that. If the high school diploma is an option, fabulous. If not, then we'll send them for their GED. But somehow or another, we're missing so many kids because society is just messed up at this point, and they're sinking and trying to swim, but they're not doing a great job at it. And so I feel like it's our job. We have to figure out how we can best help them. So we have talked about having that nighttime program again, but maybe change it. Instead of accepting adjudicated youth, this time we look at more of an adult education program.
So today you've not met with Lake Tech to try and form a partnership?
No, I have not. As a matter of fact, I have spoken with Ms. Watson by email, and this morning was the first time she and I saw each other face to face. So we will be doing that. I feel like I don't know where I'm looking.
Yeah. On this application, I can only support 2 years at this point.
Dr. Barnes?
I have had the Eustis community reach out to me about this school, and I know that the superintendent had come to the school about a year ago, and I really feel like the community is rallying around this school, and we should really give them some time to try and realize realize their vision, because I think that what I'm seeing is a lot of people pulling together to really try and make this school both financially and educationally viable. And I agree with her completely. I don't think that the test scores, I think it completely confuses the picture of what they're actually trying to do and the services that they're actually providing to the community. But I do agree with a short contract, whether 2 or 3, I'm okay with either really, whichever the board decides, just so that we can make sure that you're able to realize your goals and so that we're checking in with you tight a little bit so that we can help along the way as is needed and maybe provide resources or advice or whatever you guys need. So I'm in support of the school. I visited the school and the community has been reaching out to me about the changes too. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing and how you're trying to make this school be a real asset to the community. I think it can be.
Thank you. And just to mention, we didn't ask for more than 5 years. And the reason for that is because I, for one, appreciate the support and the feedback. And so, 2 or 3 years, I would venture to say 3 would be great, simply because I think that it's going to take us, this is sort of a transition year. And for us to really dive into the issues that we have. And like Ms. Summerlin indicated earlier, having the annual review from each department. And even outside of that, this year, everybody in the various departments has been so phenomenal to help me realize the things that I thought I knew, but I didn't. And so I realistically said 5, because I would welcome, the everybody looking at what we do, because there's always room for improvement. I can't claim that we're wonderful, because we do good things and we have great kids and we have great staff, but there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. I have high hopes for Ali. I worked at a time when Ali was a great resource for principals in the district, and I had a great relationship in years past. And a lot of my students from middle school, it's been years, but they went to Ali and they were successful. So I understand the need for Ali. The only thing that I would say as far as, and I too am very familiar with the conversation in the community, and I know that you have some great supporters and some very passionate people. And I think you've done a great job with turning around the culture of your school.
Thank you.
And I think most of the leaders in the room can tell you that the culture of your school is the core. That's where you start. And once you have a culture that you believe in and is there for the benefit of the students, then you're able to really do things for them. From an administrative point of view, the thing that I would encourage you to do is to really explore your options. Do some out-of-the-box thinking. I think your idea about the adult education or creating a different schedule such that it's more amenable to their schedules, I think that's an excellent idea. I think there is a lot of students out there. I agree with Mr. Mathias. Your cap at 200 concerns me just a little bit, because I know how important it is to have some extra when you're trying to run a school, because you don't know what's going to happen. So I would encourage you to make sure that you do consider those possibilities of perhaps being able to increase your revenue or increase your student enrollment, thereby getting, more FTE. The Red Book, what can I say about that? That's the principal's Bible, so absolutely. But as far as supporting your renewal, I would. And I would support 3 years, because unless you've done it, you don't know how difficult it is to turn around a school. It's like a big cruise ship out in the middle of the ocean, and it takes time. And things come up, and you have to sometimes stop where you are and venture a little later. So I would like to see you get the 3 years, because I believe that in 3 years, if you continue on the path you're on, you can come back and we can have something to celebrate. So congratulations on what you've done, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I will say that I learned a lot about your school from your application.
Yeah, 608
That's right.
pages.
And I'm afraid I only made my first pass at it. And I typically make at least 2 passes on these sorts of things. But I became much more understanding of the challenges that you face with your population and the resources that you provide. And so I found it very educational, and I can certainly appreciate your passion and your essence. We certainly know that a leader can make a world of difference, in any organization, especially a school. A couple of questions. So I saw back in 2017 your enrollment was like 299. Is that because of the different schedule that you no longer
Yes.
have now? Okay.
Yes, our charter was written at 300, so that was because we had both sessions and both. We have a little bit of extra space that we could have additional students. Our budget is written at 180 students, so for us to have nearly 200, we do have, that does give us a little bit of extra. To your point, having additional students is ultimately a goal. However, I think having too many takes away the intimacy of what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the ideal world, you would love to see your school not even exist, right? Because every kid would have succeeded to begin with, and they wouldn't need, the resources that you provide. But so it's kind of a double-edged sword.
It is.
That
It is.
You really don't want to grow, but you want to be there for the kids who need
Absolutely.
you, right?
You're right. You're absolutely
I totally
right.
get it. Totally get it. And so that being said, I guess without that economy of scale, your budget is a pretty narrow little beast, and just a couple $1,000s really makes the difference in what percentage of fund balance ratio you've got left. And so I understand that challenge with the economy of scale. Your instructional staff is not very large. It was like 9, is that right?
Mm-hmm. We have
Okay.
9 teachers.
And so, I guess I'm interested in learning more about your recruitment efforts and how to attract high-quality teachers. I know that, so I think you noted that 4 of the 9 teachers are new to you, right? So
That was when the application
Of
was
the
filled
application.
out, yeah.
So,
I actually have 2 remaining staff that
Two.
have more than 1 year.
Okay.
Everybody else is brand new.
wow, so they're,
I've brought in an instructional coach for the sole purpose that most of our staff is brand new. And so we need to get those people up to snuff. But I will be very candid when I say that when I interview for a teacher, I'm looking at more than their teaching credentials. I need to see that they have a heart, that they have experience with at-risk kids. And I always say, I can teach a teacher to teach, but I can't teach someone to work with these kids who've been thrown away or they've been forgotten. So my instructional coach she's wonderful. And so she is going to be diving very deep into how these teachers need to get the point across.
100%, and that's where I was kind of wondering what your professional development process looked like. Naturally, you want highly effective teachers,
Sure.
but you don't want to just give them the rating, right? They've got to, but that doesn't also mean, in my mind, that every one of these kids is passing the FSA on their first try,
Right.
But they are delivering high quality instruction.
Yes.
And what do you start your teachers at there? Salary?
Well, this year it's $45,185.
Okay.
Next year, to be in compliance with the statute or the governor's mandate, was at $47,500. So everybody will be bumped to that. Now, if they've been with us, not just as teachers, but other employees will be, they earn a step each year. So.
Okay. All right. I think that sums up my questions there.
Well, feel free to stop by anytime.
Yes,
Now
I
that
would
you've
like
learned
to.
all kinds of stuff.
I would like to see it off of paper and see the real thing.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
We invite you to come by.
All right. Thank you.
I would just say, I know that you have some of your leadership here, but I know there's been a lot of conversation and hard conversation that's taken place before this to get you to the point that you are. So I applaud the leadership and the decisions that have been made, and it seems like all of the discussion that's culminated to this event has been productive, and in the name of the students that need us the most. So like listening to you talk about like the teachers and hearing you say that one of your biggest challenges is finding staff that are out of field, I truly believe that you do have to have a heart, and I would like to see if there was more creative hiring process for your building, because sometimes it doesn't take a certified teacher to make moves with these adult learners or these children, like you said, that have typically been forgotten. So I think that your lens and your creative approach and some of the ideas that you're kicking around, I kind of agree with Mrs. Cunningham in regards to how many years does it take to implement some of these things that may work or may not work. So I would be more in favor of 3 years as well, just to give you some room to flex, knowing that the leadership understands. I think everybody understands where you are. And even evaluating your teachers, to Mr. Dodd's point and to your point about your data not being necessarily accurate, and how do our teachers get a highly effective rating when the data isn't supportive of highly effective teachers who are making these moves with kids in that nature. So I don't know what the flexibility would be provided in statute, but I think that it would be well within the conversation, and how do we engage that type of evaluation for our instructional leaders and even our staff, because I know that they're helping just right alongside with teachers. And then would that support more of a highly effective staff, or more reflection of what your staff actually is? Because probably like the students, they've been overlooked a little bit because of that data as well. So, Did anybody else from your board or from your group want to come speak?
Thank you guys very
Thank you.
much.
Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
We had in the past another charter that was in similar, I'm more concerned about the financial side because I know how involved the community is in supporting Ali. I'm concerned about the financial side. I am concerned also that as our district has moved to more career technical opportunities, that are they the resource that they were in the past? So that is the reason for the 2 years, which certainly, if they're seeing great gains, we then could renew it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mathias.
Hi, Mr. Mathias, it's Nan, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How you doing, Dan?
Well, I'm fine. Good morning, everybody. For those that you don't know me, I know most of you anyway, but I'm Nan Cobb, and this is my second year on the board for Ali Academy. I would like to say that our chair, Michael Holland, could not be here. He's also a mayor of our city. He is with the county right now in a meeting. So, yes, you're right. We have had some hard conversations before all of this came together, and it's been challenging. You know, we've talked about on our end about peeling away the onion at Ali Academy, and as the board has gotten more involved, we've got new board members, and as the board has gotten involved, we have, you know, and with Cindy, the leadership changing, we knew that we had a leadership change to make. And so we're still peeling away that onion, if you will, and we are still trying the best we can. Just a couple notes, when you talk about the data, by the time we get them, there is no data, none. And so when you come to us at the 11th grade with 4 credits, it's a little difficult. It's a little difficult. But at the end of the day, I am a firm believer, you know, my husband's background's education, vocational education, and our whole family is vocational education. And so we look at that. I don't care how long it takes. As long as you get that diploma, I don't care. You know, maybe it might not be recognized from the Department of Education after a certain time, but at the end of the day, it's here. And what we need to make them successful. And when they're successful here, and it makes them successful there. Most of these kids are full grown at 8 years old. Okay? Unfortunately. So by the time we get them, they're either on the street, they're living in a motel, they're couch surfing. Now some do have parents, not all of them, and not everybody that comes to Ali is bad, if you will, or has a problem. They just want to get through school and get out. High school's not for them. So we have to have a little compassion for these kids. Not every kid learns the same way. We all know that. I know mine didn't. And so it's how we get to them. And we've got to show them we care. We've got to show them we love them. These kids don't trust. Again, when you come to us at full grown at 8 years, you know, they're 8. They're grown. They don't trust anybody. And so if we can get one bit of trust out of these kids and get them to come to school every day, that's an accomplishment for us. It really is. I mean, it's just life for these kids. And so I would really ask, we are trying, you know, we are looking at alternatives. So I would really ask for the 3-year contract. We're not going to right this ship in a year. We won't. So just give us a little bit, and we'll do our very best. And I will tell you, I think you all know me, if I'm going to sit here and say, well, we can't turn this around, I'll be the first one to say, we just, somehow we failed. So I'm really not one to usually fail, but, you know, it's just going to take all of us to work together and right this ship. So I really appreciate your support. I definitely appreciate your support for everything, Miss Julie, that you have done, and everybody with Cindy. It's been challenging, and I just want to say thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering too, just to Mr. Mathias's point about the financials, when the staff does their yearly, every charter school gets a yearly visit, correct? If there was a concern, a continued concern about the financials, we would be able to come back sooner than 3 years?
Oh, definitely.
Is that appropriate to say?
That would be something, obviously, Mr. Ward's wheelhouse, but statute allows for financial management, so.
Right, okay. Right. So there would be a way for us to come back sooner if the 3-year contract was granted. We could make it 2 or even 1.
That's part of, when I was explaining the non-renewals or terminations, that was one of the 4 justifications, is financial management.
Sure, okay.
Can I say
Yeah,
one more
please,
thing?
come on.
Mr. Mathias, you mentioned getting us back to where we came from. One of the things that we've been talking about is getting an agriculture program. years ago, back when Ali was first founded, they used to build canoes, and they had a photography class, and they had a lot of other things. And yes, I've been there for 13 years, but they've been in existence for 22, so I haven't been there the entire time. However, that is something that I think we need to get back to. I have not visited the schools that have had the academies that you've put in place, but I know that some of our students aren't on that path, and so they are on a path, and we just have to tap into what that is. One of the things that's going away quickly is agriculture, and we live in Lake County. We need to keep that going. And so another thing is a STEM program. So that's something else I've got my hands into. And interestingly enough, we get such a diverse population that having a sustainable program each and every year might be something that we can consider. It just may be on a smaller scale each year because we have such a diverse, and we get kids that have different interests. So meeting the needs of those interests is what is important. But right now, we have the facility, and so we are looking one step forward for sure will be an agriculture program, quickly followed by a STEM program. That's the goal.
Cool. That sounds great. All right.
Excuse me, one more question.
Stay,
Excuse me.
Mrs. Emmerich. Yep, go ahead, Mr. Rutherford.
How many of your students now are back in the traditional model, brick and mortar? And are you still doing the Zoom classes?
No, everybody is brick and mortar, unless, of course, we have gotten information from them, documentation from them or their families that they have COVID or they have to be quarantined. We do still provide, not necessarily a Zoom class where they can join their particular class period, but our teachers are there for about 45 minutes at the end of every day. And then on Fridays, our schedule is Monday through Thursday for core academic, and then on Fridays, the teachers are there for 4 hours in the morning. And so our students can join them on a Zoom call, and it's more of a private tutor situation. So if they have to be out for those situations, then we do make those accommodations.
And do you have CTE programs on campus now?
At the moment, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you guys for coming today, for being here, for the work you've done. Mhm.
All right,
Is
that
that it?
concludes it.
That
We'll
concludes
see.
you?
Yes.
For
We're
today.
done. For
For
today.
And we appreciate your being on the moment to flex for those charter school applications, that we can have an opportunity to look at them, because I think we'd all appreciate that very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Superintendent, what are we on? 3.02, the ACE and IB programs. Yay. Board, does anybody need to use the restroom? Mrs. Cunningham, are you okay? Okay. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. So I think they're gonna progress slides for me, so I didn't have to worry about that thing working or not working as we go through the presentation. But good morning. So I'm very excited to be here. I get the opportunity to bring forth a bit more information about a couple of programs in our district. And I wanted to start with the first slide, please. Or the next slide, maybe. And my amazing staff put together this. I gave them content, and then they made it beautiful. So I have an amazing staff member who is very talented. So as we all know, the mission of Lake County Schools is to provide every student with individual opportunities to excel. I was actually telling Mark Dodd at the dry-in the other day that I have the best job in the county because my department gets to put in the programs at schools that everybody wants to come to school for. Like, I actually get the CTE program. So our department has the privilege of implementing not only ACE and IB in our schools, but we have 74 career and technical education programs, 18 AVID programs that include 2 national demonstration schools, 9 College Board Advanced Placement programs with 5 capstone schools, 6 Cambridge International programs for now. We support the work of all of our graduation facilitators at our schools, as well as our school counselors. We have 5 dual enrollment programs with Lake Sumter, Lake Tech, UF, UCF, and Embry-Riddle was added on this year, as well as HSCA is a kind of another program within Lake Sumter. So we have a lot of programs that we get to support and offer to our students in this district. So I didn't want to let any of those kind of get by us. But today, the primary purpose is to talk about IB, what that timeline looks like, because it is a long timeline, and then the idea of what ACE might look like if we go bigger. Okay? Next slide, please. IB is a pretty well-known program throughout the world, really, but Florida, most districts have an IB program. So IB is an accelerated liberal arts curriculum that's designed to meet the needs of highly motivated students in our schools. It is a high school program that is offered in the 11th and 12th grade. Those are when the courses are actually taken, like the actual IB courses, where they take those exams in order to meet the criteria for the IB diploma. It's made up of their core program, which is the Theory of Knowledge, which is a course that runs through those 2 years. Their CAS, which is Creativity, Activity, and Service. It's a service project. An extended essay, and then they must pass exams in 6 subject areas. So that's, did I hit it all right?
Yeah, I'm squirming a little bit as you talk about that extended essay.
Right? It's a big project.
Yes.
I firmly believe that Lake County's students deserve every opportunity. So adding IB to kind of our program availability is just another opportunity for our students to have the same opportunities that surrounding district students have. Next slide, please. The 6 subject areas that are covered in addition to the Theory of Knowledge, the service project, and the extended essay are studies in language and literature, language acquisition, individual and society, sciences, mathematics, and arts. The current idea at Tavares is to do language and literature in that first block. Language acquisition would be Spanish at this moment. In terms of individual society, they're looking at history of the Americas as the coursework. For sciences, we're looking at biology. For math applications and interpretations. And then for the arts, IB music. So that's kind of currently what we're looking at in terms of professional development, what we would be offering our students so that they had the opportunity to get to that IB diploma. And if you want to ask me questions along the way, that's fine. I mean, I have a slide at the end, but.
So my 6th subject, there was not art. I did psychology. Is that
Okay.
a path for kids anymore, or has the curriculum changed over time? That
I honestly don't know the answer to all the things that are included within art. I don't know if psychology would be an individual society at this point, but we can look into
yeah,
that.
I wasn't sure if you're locked into way back in the
Right.
olden days. So that art. Some kids did art as that 6th subject. Other kids picked one of the other 5 subjects as their 6th subject. So I don't know if that option
Okay.
is still available. You know, we had some kids who did 2 sciences, or
Right.
some kids who did right, and so I guess psychology probably fell into the individual society. So I guess I technically had 2 histories, but
Okay.
it was an incredibly popular option.
The
I know
psychology,
that not
okay.
every kid is musically inclined, so I guess I'm nervous about somebody's IB diploma hinging on their grasp of music, right?
Correct,
You
correct.
know?
So we can look into that.
So
And I don't know if Robin knows the answer to that off the top of her head. We'll write it down and we'll find out
Okay.
for sure. If you have to have one, ACE, you have to cover each subject group.
Right.
And so we can make sure and look into arts and what other options are, because we wouldn't want someone, like you said, to be limited on their musical abilities when it all comes down to the
Would it
diploma.
be band per se, or would it be like music theory? Because I know that music
There's
theory
different
doesn't,
options.
I was gonna say, music theory doesn't necessarily rely on your
Yeah.
ability to play an instrument or sing.
I'm trying to remember, in my previous district's IB program, they did have IB music, and it was more of a theory-based. It
Right.
wasn't necessarily like playing instruments.
Right.
But that's still a concept that not every student's going to be interested in or have, the most interest in
But I
grasping.
wouldn't imagine that they'd all be interested in psychology either. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, psychology doesn't interest me whatsoever. So like, we could have this debate. So as long as it's, whether it's psychology or music, as long as it's general, that it wouldn't require a talent, I think is
Correct.
probably what our biggest concern
yeah,
is.
my question is really just what is the requirement now?
Right.
If you're locked into
To each subject group.
That's right. Or
Right.
are you able to still go pick a second one, you know, and then over time, if you add the second science, or you,
Right.
you know.
Because right now we would only have one, correct? So that really wouldn't be an option.
As we're building. And
Right.
again, like these programs, as you launch them, you kind of fold in subject areas each year as you certify teachers, you kind of survey the population of students, who's in the program, what's working, what's not working. All these things are very flexible as they start because the school is learning, the students are learning, the teachers are learning, the district is learning, kind of as we go into play. So this is their first thought at Tavares High. Nothing in IB is a bit more rigid, or ACE is really in stone. There's a lot of places we know we will have to make adjustments as we go to make sure that we do produce the most successful program for our students.
So
that was, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
That was my, can we like just briefly overview the vision? Because I didn't know Tavares was planning on IB, or maybe I did and I don't remember, but like Leesburg has ACE, maybe Tavares has IB. What is the vision? Are we planning on putting one at each school? Because ACE is different than IB, and I have my cousin did IB, and it's extremely rigorous, like to the point that we were debating whether or not it was even worth it. It's so rigorous, and ACE seems to be a little more. It's definitely rigorous. I would say that the biochemistry that my son was learning was third year college level biochemistry. So, and I was teaching it to him. So what is the vision with these two different programs, and how are we picking them and intertwining them or whatever?
Yes, so originally, 5 years ago before I came here, and I was looking at the makeup of Lake County and the geographical distance and locations in Lake County, the vision was to make sure that every school had an accelerated program like an IB, like an ACE, like our AP capstone programs. A collegiate high school is also like an amazing idea that we hope comes to fruition. So the original plan was to have one IB school because IB is such a rigorous program. There was not necessarily the original intention to make that go any farther than that, and any expansion would be one at a time as we kind of work through the logistics. So Tavares was always my idea, and working with that leader and Mr. Stein as the IB school. A lot of that was a geographical thought process in terms of it's kind of in the middle, and we could someone could get there from any of our different areas in 45 minutes, hopefully, or less, depending on where you're coming from. And then ACE originally was proposed to be one in every region, which is currently where we are with the high schools and that implementation rollout. And then that would leave Mount Dora High as the potential idea for a collegiate high school. They do have our largest dual enrollment on-campus program at the moment, and we are in talks actually with Lake Sumter to see what it would look like to expand that so they could be a true collegiate high school. We'd be offering additional dual enrollment courses on Mount Dora High School's campus. So that, Christy or Mrs. Burns, is the original plan. I don't know, the idea of ACE getting bigger, I have some more slides about that when I get to ACE. But currently, the thought process is one IB school for the time being. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does answer my question. But also, I'm surprised that you chose Tavares and not, say, Mineola or Eastridge, being as how large they are. So I guess I do understand the geographical decision though as well. I guess then my question is, what will go into South Lake schools, or what is there, and am I missing something?
Yes, and so you'll see when I get to ACE, we'll talk about the idea there. But currently, South Lake High School is has ACE. It just started this year. So.
Okay. Well, sorry, I meant South Lake, Mineola, and East. I meant all of those South Lake schools.
Yes.
But thank you. I'll wait for you. Thank you.
Yes, we'll get to that.
And then Mrs. Cunningham had a question, I think.
Yes, ma'am. I had a question about the arts. Is it just music, or does it include drama and chorus? Because I know Tavares has programs with that. So can that be included in the arts? It can't, okay.
I'll find out, but I'm almost positive that
Well,
theater
she's
is one of
nodding
them.
her head, yes.
My expert
Okay,
is nodding
yes,
good.
you're- Thank you.
My eyes don't work in the back of my head either, like Julie's. Okay.
So I understand the whole geography piece, and I think in a lot of districts, an IB school tends to be really a magnet, that kids from throughout the
Yeah.
district go there. And I think part of the challenges that we face as our district is the geography, right? You've got, and it takes me a long time to go from Claremont to the north end of the county, right? And so you've got that challenge. Plus, I know the funding is different here than it is in other counties. In other counties, Students are receiving transportation to go to a magnet school outside of their zoned high school.
Correct.
And I don't really see us being able to afford that, right?
Right.
Having a kid jump on a bus in Umatilla to go down to Claremont.
Mhm. Yeah.
That'd be, right, so I guess that's part of the challenge there, but, because of that, I mean, do you see kids then, I don't wanna say zone wavering, because that doesn't really exist so much anymore, but opting into a magnet program like IB from a different school to,
I think it's going to depend on your students, and transportation is always going to be a barrier.
Sure.
I don't know, as the program grows, these advanced programs, ACE, IB, AP, Capstone, CTE, they tend to become self-sustainable with the funding model from the state in terms of the bonus funding. So I don't know if might be a future that the IB funding itself could assist with potential transportation from different sections of the district as we see an interest in kids wanting to come to a different school. I have noticed since I've been here that people don't really leave their schools, like as I'm trying to regionalize approaches, because we are so spread out and there's just only so many kind of programs and funds and things. I'm not seeing many students like jumping from their school because it's their school. That's where their parents went or their community is. And so I do understand that challenge that we're about to face with this.
yeah, and I think that's a big one, because normally if you've got a district, an IB school or two, and you've got kids from all over the district going into those, and that gives you a larger pool of applicants, and because of that, you can take a higher caliber.
We do intend to open it in terms of other students from any school being able to apply and go to the IB school. I think the feasibility of that with transportation, just the culture of we go to our school, right? And we don't, that's not really the culture of Lake County, is just the kind of magnet and go everywhere. I think as the program grows and as we learn more and do better, we'll kind of see what happens. And if it turns out that, 5-6 years down the road, we see the need for another school in another area, I think we approach that as we get there.
Yeah, and certainly one benefit of being able to grow that program is to have a variety of options. So when you do these tests, 3 of them are, I assume, still at the higher level, and 3 are, they call it standard level now?
Yes, H&S, yeah.
I guess we're probably not planning to offer all of these at the higher
No.
and standard level. So some of these choices are going to be told for you, right?
Correct.
So what does that look like? I'm going to figure history and Americas, that's a higher level course.
I have that here.
Math applications, that's standard, right? So I guess a lot of schools make English a higher level for everybody.
Yes, and so they do have that planned out. Here we have it. So we have, again, this is sketched out now because, can we go to the next slide and let's look at the timeline? I think that might help us a little bit in part of this conversation. So where we currently are is we're in candidacy. We had to apply for that last year. We were accepted into the candidacy phase. And so now we're working towards authorization. So as a candidacy school, we have like a list of things now that we have to accomplish in order to actually be authorized as an IB school. So we're not quite there yet. We're still in a lot of planning and prepping phase. We plan to apply for authorization in October. There's a typo on this slide. The authorization visit is not now. It's in April, May of 2023, not right now in 2022. So what we're doing in this phase right here, to be able to launch our first actual cohort of IB students in 23-24, is a lot of planning and professional development. So what they're thinking of right this second, right, which again, between now and 2023, there may be some changes, is that the language and lit would be the standard level, that Spanish would be high, so that'd be over 2 years, because your high level courses are actually taught over 2 years. Spanish 1 and 2 kind of idea. U.S. history would be in the other high, taught over 2 years. Biology would be the third high. The math applications is standard, and then the music or art or like whatever that might look like would be the standard level. So that's kind of what they're sketching out and thinking in terms of master scheduling, teacher prep, resources, all those things that we're working on between now and our application for authorization that we're working out.
So a student would take the higher level exam in foreign language after just 2 years?
After their final, yes. We'll be looking at making sure that they had Spanish, other Spanishes like 1 and 2 as 9th and 10th graders.
Okay, so I'm not sure if things have changed over time, but those of us who took the higher level Spanish took 6 years of it. So has the exam changed that now you can take it after just 2? I mean, 2 versus 6 years is a world of difference.
Well,
I just don't know.
the 6 years of Spanish weren't all
6 years?
6,
Well,
Because you
years?
start in 7th grade.
Because you started in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
7th
Right,
grade, right.
So
we know that-
course-wise,
Mhm.
we're not calling this Spanish 1.
No, we're not calling
Spanish.
Spanish 1. It would be the first IB Spanish, the IB Spanish in 11th and the IB Spanish in 12th. Prior to that, we will have them in, hopefully, because Tavares Middle at the current moment has Spanish. We'll have kids who have had maybe 1 or 2, and then it'll be 3, 4, or 3 AP, and then into IB. So they do know that the foreign language piece is so much more beneficial, and the odds of passing the test.
Right.
You do need those foundational
Yeah, that'd be-
years
that'd be a
in
real
order to
struggle.
be successful.
So, why make the foreign language higher level versus your English?
All of that is what's sketched in the moment. Like,
Okay.
all these things can definitely change. This is all of us talking, sitting down.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Stein went to the head of schools training along with Robin Thayer, just to kind of start the whole training process to even be able to apply for candidacy and authorization. So
Okay.
nothing is in stone. As they learn more and our teachers are trained and we get more information, that may be a decision that's made.
Okay.
How do you, as we lay this out, so you're telling me, like, as a parent, I did not know that you had 6 years necessary. So if I'm thinking as a parent of putting one of my kids into an IB school, I have to be thinking about them being put into an IB middle school, which is not at all clear, right? Like, I would never, as a parent, think if my kid wants to do IB, I need to make sure that they're in the feeder middle school so that they have 2 more years of Spanish so that they'll be ready for whatever Spanish 3 is as a freshman, right? Like, so and I can tell you, and I think it was largely because of COVID, but this happened in part to my son with the ACE program. So how do we, I don't know, tell parents, how do we make sure parents know that you don't just start IB as in high school? Because I thought that's what the program was.
So you can actually start IB in high school. You don't have to have a feeding IB, or it's called a middle years program at a middle school in order to have successful high school IB programs. There are models all over. Some models have middle year and actually primary year programs. We're not looking at that at the moment, that feed into an IB high school diploma program. And you have successful IB programs who feed from just other rigorous programs between AVID, some of our pre-AP coursework, our honors coursework that can feed into an IB program successfully. One of the things that Mr. Stein, Mrs. Watkins, who's going to end up being the IB coordinator, are looking at is communicating down to the middle schools. And we do have to work on our communication piece to our upcoming 9th graders, and going even down into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in middle school, so that they know what if, and really it's just going to be like a menu, These are the options that are available within the district. Here are the different schools where they might be. If your student is interested in IB, what might be recommended that you take, not required, but recommended for the highest level of success, is that you start looking at Spanish for example, in 7th and 8th grade. Math is always very important in these accelerated programs. You want to have, at least algebra by 8th grade, so you're coming into geometry in 9th grade. So it's really kind of laying this out in a way for parents and students to understand what is required, what is recommended for the highest level of success.
Yeah, I think there's just a culture or practice piece that has shifted on the foreign language where there wasn't a lot of demand from kids, and as a result, middle school started cutting those programs and putting other things in place. But in reality, if you're a high-performing student, foreign language in middle school is a good track for you because you're getting high school credit, and you can go deeper into the language and be able to take the AP exam, which has a really high pass rate. I think just, there were other options that looked more glamorous, right? I'd rather be in a culinary program, baking cupcakes and all the other things that they do that are, that sounds amazing, right? And I think maybe some of the challenge is the 6 period day versus the 7, right? So now you don't have the ability to do all of that you used to be able to do.
Right.
But
I also just want to point out that as we develop this, we need to consider the privates, because Tavares very much pulls on students from Leesburg, students from Eustis. They really do. But you're right. Those parents will decide the freshman year to send the kid. It's not like they're gonna they'll make the decision. Like, cause I live near Treadway. Treadway's a tweener school, right? So like,
Right.
the kids at Treadway go to Eustis, Leesburg, or Tavares. And so those parents will be making that decision, but also we have to think about all the charters that are available and all the privates here as well, that all will be feeding into that. So we have to make sure that, like, I don't know if there is charters that have, I guess there's not a lot of middle school charters, but there are privates. And I don't, their options aren't necessarily the same. So we just need to be able to, I don't know, make sure it's really clear to parents somehow.
And that's definitely something the department is working on, and actually Superintendent Cordy and I were talking about this last week, making sure that we do have more transparent information on my CCR website just about what that menu idea, like if this, what might you want to do? If that, what might you want to do? If you want this, where would that be? How might you get there? And so that's something that we're working on just to make sure that it is more readily available. I actually have an email sitting in my inbox, a parent asking, moving into the district, asking about CTE opportunities. Where are those located? So it obviously isn't so readily available with a click because I'm getting individual emails about that kind of stuff. So that's something we can definitely improve on, especially as we're expanding programs and adding programs so that everyone has a clear idea, or as clear as we can make it on a web page, and then obviously contact information to get deeper into the different possibilities.
So I think one of the other pieces that made IB successful in 11th and 12th grade is the pre-IB sort of option, 9th and 10th grade. Because I think if you're waiting till 11th grade to decide to commit to IB, you're going to have some big hurdles in front of you, right?
So Mr. Stein's thought process is actually to have the students kind of commit to IB as they're coming into 8th grade, into 9th grade, excuse me. So he is looking to talk to those 8th graders coming up now, and let them know this is an option now, this is something we're working towards. Because we're not authorized yet, we can't really go more broad than that because we're not an IB school yet. We're in the process, and so we're sticking feeder pattern for the moment until we get that authorization, hopefully in November-ish of this year, once we apply for authorization. So we're a little bit limited right this second as we're also figuring all this out, but he is planning on making sure those students who are interested are probably scheduled a certain way to make sure that if they haven't had Spanish yet, okay, we get that caught up. If, that they are in probably pre-AP classes actually, or honors classes to make sure that we kind of get them on the right path. So while it's not necessarily pre-IB yet, there will be a focus on a cohort of students who's interested in making sure that they're getting some supports into making the right course decisions really as they get closer.
I guess I struggle with thinking about the communication piece of all of it. And I feel like some of the issues that we faced as the district in the past is the turnover. And so as we have employee challenges existing currently, it just concerns me, not just for our IB program, for our existing programs, for our athletes, for our academics, for our musically inclined students, that maybe the guidance that we have is more one narrow view, and we need to have a scope of wider. So I don't know if there's a way to archive like the work that you're doing now, because it sounds very focused and clear, but who knows what positions will be in those schools next year. So I don't know how a student or a parent could access based on their child's needs. So I was kind of laughing when you said that students don't necessarily move in this district, because I could probably name 25 that have moved, just off the top of my head. And I would be interested if Ms. Summerlin was here to talk about why they move, but they move for different reasons, right? So if there was a way that we had a portal for parents to get the information based on their child's needs, I think that would be a really great opportunity.
Right, and so we bounced around a lot of ideas about what that might look like, just to have some kind of maybe guiding videos about what different programs are, like guiding Bright Futures, because right now you can go to Indie School Counselor website in our district, we've centralized all that, and it takes you to the Bright Futures webpage, for example. And then you have to dive in and like read it yourself, but maybe a guiding overview of this is what the 3 diplomas, scholarships are, this is how you might get to them, just do some of that kind of work.
Well, and even just exploring university opportunities, different universities have different requirements as well. So when we have guidance counselors talking about dual enrollment opportunities, or AP programs, or these programs, and then you go to some of our more prestigious universities and they say, no, we don't recognize those programs. I mean, it's just very interesting. All the paths and that's not Lake County Schools' issue, but it certainly would be nice as a parent to not sit in those meetings and go, oh my God, what?
Right.
Do you know
And
what
the
I'm
challenge of that
It's
is
significant.
every
It's
single
significant.
school, probably in the United States of America, has different
different,
requirements. So
right.
it might be possible to get to that level, but an overall of,
Right.
if you're interested in said school or said kind of school,
Right.
you should probably
Go
contact
to
them
that school. Right. That's exactly right.
first as you kind of make some of your decisions too. So it can get very broad very fast. So trying to figure out how to get some details in that'll help people make the best decision,
Right,
and then
for
it's
their kids.
uniform, because I think
Yeah.
the uniformity piece is something that.
But it's weird
would
to
be
start
helpful.
thinking about those things. It's weird, you guys are discussing middle school opportunities, and so
Mhm.
I have not thought about that for my 12-year-old. Did you, right? How many people think about what university does she want to go to? Should I
Right.
put her at Tavares High School for the IB program that could be, like, it's just it becomes very, like, big to think about. So
Correct.
it's just interesting.
So, go ahead.
I think that you're definitely got a good plan. I don't know exactly how many years, but many, many years ago, we went down this road with Leesburg High School. And there are a lot of reasons why I believe it didn't come to fruition, and I'm very sorry about that. I am one of those parents who particularly chose a particular high school for my second child because I thought I knew what he was going to do. Not so much, but however, I commend you. And the only thing that I would say is that I think it's extremely important that while we are far from being there, that we do start putting it in the minds of parents, because there are some people out there. And I think the other real important thing about this is we know that the middle schools have to be involved.
Correct.
And that takes some particular thinking. When last I was in a middle school, I did offer Spanish, 7th and 8th grade, but I had to be very creative with who taught it. I just happened to have someone who worked doing something else, who happened to have a degree in Spanish and could take the test. So principals need an opportunity to start thinking ahead, and they need to be communicating with the high school, making sure that we're offering the right classes. So I think it's really important that you have those meetings where people are talking to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking the same thing, whenever you guys were speaking about Spanish in the middle school, I was thinking as long as you have somebody to teach that high school course,
Right,
those
and it's
12-year-olds.
very hard.
Yes, it is. It is. Maths
It's a
and
challenge,
languages,
for sure.
very difficult.
For sure. So that's what the timeline looks like for IB. It is a long timeline with our first kind of courses actually been offered 23-24 with the idea of having any graduates 24-25. We are pretty realistic of that first cohort being small and the number of actual diploma earners probably being smaller. It's just the reality of us all kind of getting into this work, and it is going to back down, and we'll get better and figure out the best way to do it. So next slide just kind of tells you about those resource needs. This was all covered in ESSER, so none of this is really new, but the ESSER conversation is what kind of started this bigger conversation and an update for you all. So these are the resource needs in order to make IB a reality. And so these are all written into ESSER, and so we are working on a lot of this now. And we were also fortunate to have the Ed Foundation support us this year. So many of these items are actually being taken care of with Ed Foundation support this year as we move forward. Next slide, please. So we're going to shift to Cambridge now. The Cambridge program is currently at 6 of our schools. We have it at Leesburg High School, Umatilla High School, South Lake High School. And then we started looking at backing into those feeder middles. So this first year, we currently have it in Oak Park Middle, Carver Middle, and Umatilla Middle. Cambridge actually has 4 different levels of program, like IB has 3. It has the advanced program, which is your ACE diploma program, which is what you really hear the most about. Like that's what gets all the notoriety and the attention is the ACE program, right? They have upper secondary, lower secondary, and primary. I know one of the questions from the November 29th board meeting was really kind of around the primary piece. At this time, it is not our intention to go primary. We don't have enough information about it. With the pandemic coming on, we were supposed to go visit schools, go to other districts, find out what implementation looked like, what does the curriculum look like, how is it folded in, how is it aligned for students. We just aren't there with everything that's going on right now. So we're putting a pause on the K-5 piece of that for the moment. Whenever we do get the information that we feel is necessary, we'll obviously share with you all. And then the idea would be that the first K-5 would be the really a COLE piece of it. The 6-8 piece of Aurelia Cole would come in as we feed South Lake High School, but then we would be able to back into the K-5 and have that the whole school as an ACE school if we find that that's what's going to be best for students. We don't know enough yet to even make that decision, but that's kind of the thought process now, knowing things change kind of daily these days as we get more information and different needs in different communities arise. So we'll go to the next slide. The Cambridge program is based on the 5 learner attributes. We want confident students who are confident with working with information and ideas, not just their own, but of others. Responsible for themselves. Reflective as learners, developing their ability to learn. They're innovative and equipped for new and future challenges. They're engaged intellectually, socially, and ready to make a difference. So I think these are things we want all of our students to have, not just Cambridge International Program students, but we would like for all of our students to have these qualities. And a lot of the work we do now, just in our schools in general, we work towards these. The next slide gives a little more information about the ACE diploma program. Like IB, ACE has different groups of subject categories that the students have to pass tests in. So it's the 7 tests. They need at least 1 from groups 1, 2, and 3, but they can double up in those groups, kind of like what you're saying about IB, which again, we're gonna find that out. Currently, Leesburg this year will graduate their first ACE diploma earners. They've got just over 20 students who are currently qualified and will have earned that ACE diploma in addition to their standard high school diploma. And the courses that Leesburg is the one that I'm the most comfortable speaking to because they have fleshed out kind of like that path within their school at this point. They offer biology and environmental management for that science math portion, English language and Spanish for that languages portion. They also have English Lit, U.S. History, and Modern European falls into Group 3. And then Group 4, interdisciplinary subjects, general paper, I can never say that right, thinking skills, and then your other courses. So that's currently what they're offering, and they've kind of built that out. And they've made adjustments with the different courses that they're offering, just as they've seen the need of their students and how that's worked out. So that's how the diploma program works. And again, this is the one that is more well-known, works a lot like an AP capstone program where you have the, AP seminar, AP research, and then 4 subjects. AP doesn't really put you into certain groups. You just have to pass 4 of their tests. But that's how the diploma program works. We'll go to the next slide. Cambridge Upper Secondary is a lot like what we kind of were talking before about pre-IB. So they're pre-ACE courses. They're in the Florida Course Code Directory as pre-ACE, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, like IB has pre-international coursework as well in the Florida Course Code Directory. So these tend to be taken in 9th and 10th grade as the students get ready to take the actual ACE course in 11th or 12th grade, or sometimes 10th as well. Currently, this is what we have at our schools. We don't have any more pre-ACE courses than these. This is what we're doing in our schools right now. I mean, the beauty of ACE also, not beauty, because I don't want to say anything negative about IB, because that's not my intention. ACE is more flexible. There's a lot more flexibility to it, even in the lead-up coursework that goes with it. And then the next slide is the lower secondary program. And so the lower secondary program it starts going really wide. It goes broad. It's they have a choice of different core subject areas. You're not actually taking that class. It's the Florida standards, really kind of with Cambridge standards and ideas within them. So currently at Carver and Oak Park in 6th grade, they have, they're working with adding Cambridge standards into ELA and math. In 6th grade, each year, their plan is to roll that up as we go. And again, first year, in the middle of a pandemic, implementing a middle school program that's new to all of us, we do expect there to just be tweaks and shifts along the way as our leaders in our schools, our teachers in our schools, learn the best way to put these programs in place to help the students be successful. Umatilla Middle went 6, 7, 8, ELA math and science with a cohorted group of students. So almost like an honors track, if you want to put it that way. The next slide gives a little bit more of definition of the programs for lower secondary that we have in our middle schools. But I think the most important part is that the content is based on our Florida standards. They're even crosswalked with the best standards, the Cambridge lower secondary standards, so you can really see where the Cambridge standards like fall in and mirror. What's interesting is the Florida best standards, and I'm not a curriculum standards expert by any means, so don't, if we go weeds on that, I won't be able to answer. But they're very broad, there's less standards. Like the best standards actually we have fewer standards now than we had before. And the Cambridge ones, like for every best standard, there's like 5 Cambridge ones listed. But they're just more specific than some of our best standards tend to be sometimes more broadly written. And so that's what that lower secondary program looks like in our schools. And as we train more teachers and get more experience in this and get more comfortable with it, we'll see how this shifts in our schools in terms of how the teachers are able to implement it and how our students are doing. And as we see student success or lack of, we can always make adjustments. But currently at those schools, our teachers who are teaching those courses have the regular resources, like from Mrs. Cockcroft's department, as well as ACE resources. So they're kind of doubled up right now, so the teachers can really make sure we're addressing all of the best standards, but can bring in the Cambridge pieces as well. So the next couple of slides really just kind of talk about the idea of what this looks like in terms of time. Okay, so the original thought process of regionalizing some different pieces and having an ACE school in each region, this is where we are. We, starting next year, Leesburg will be in its 5th year. Umatilla will be in its 3rd, and Southlake will be in its 2nd. And so this just kind of shows you, as this grows out in 26, 27, how far along they will have come. Carver, Oak Park, Umatilla will be in their 2nd year next year. Again, the middle schools program is where we know we have like the most, like we have a lot of learning to do, a lot of, as we find out what's best for our students. The next slide actually talks about the idea of ACE going bigger. If we were to consider ACE in more secondary schools than the kind of the original thought process was, this is kind of a proposal of what that might look like. So we would be applying to add Eastridge, Gray, and Aurelia Cole, because Gray and Aurelia Cole would feed Southlake. So kind of the way that I had envisioned this is that as I get a high school in, then the following year or 2, I would look at adding that middle school program into the middle schools to feed, right? So that's kind of, you can see how it's kind of backed that way. So if we applied for Eastridge next year, we'd bring on Gray and Aurelia Cole as well for 23-24. At this point in the year, we are too late to apply for 22-23 for them to actually start. And then so on and so forth. So 23-24, the idea of applying for Lake Min, and then at the same time bringing on the feeders for Eastridge, because we had put that in place the year before. And then 24-25, bringing on the feeder for Lake Min, applying for Eustis if that's what we decide to do. So it's just kind of a thought process through the next several years as we see the needs in our schools, the desires of leaders in our schools, the programs that are available in our schools, and what different schools can maintain and sustain, really.
And this would never be a Tavares overlap with that.
I would not overlap IB and ACE.
Right, they would
I would not see that to be very beneficial.
Let me see if I can phrase this nice. So what I'm seeing right now is multiple schools on the north end that we're putting in the ACE program. I think ACE is great. Like, I like it. I think it's a good program. I think that we have to recognize these are the kids that are specifically going to be college ready, right? Like, these are our college bound and potentially top college bound kids. And at Eastridge High School, it's just a bigger school, so there's gonna be more of those college bound kids. So I guess I'm a little confused why we would wait so long for a school like Eastridge or Lake Mineola. I very much want to put them in this side also, I just don't quite understand why we aren't putting it at our bigger schools first, given that it would hit a bigger population of kids.
Well,
Eastridge is first.
I think
on
we
this
are on the
timeline.
future schools timeline. Up to this point, they haven't been there, and I think it's maybe largely because those other schools have chased the AP capstone, and so.
Is that why? Maybe that is why.
So my original, again, kind of this vision goes back 5 years or so, and so when it was coming into the district, looking at what programs are already in place, you're correct. AP Capstone had just started when I got here, at Lake Min and Eastridge, and South Lake actually had it as well. South Lake has had a little bit less successful implementation. It just is what it is. It's a smaller school. And so I wasn't looking to stack a program on top of the AP Capstone program right away because they had AP Capstone going. And AP Capstone was new, like brand new, from the College Board at the time. And so that is why Eastridge and Lake Min were not on the table from the upstart, because I had another program there that I wanted to make sure that we were supporting.
So how is AP Capstone working at those schools? Is it a good program for those college career ready? Because I just don't know AP Capstone.
Yeah, so AP Capstone is comparable, and it's new. So, I mean, saying that it's like recognized like IB at this point it's not, because it's brand new from College Board. But it is rigorous college credit earning coursework, just like IB or ACE is. But the AP Capstone program from College Board is relatively new in the realm of those accelerated diplomas. So, but it is going well, and we have a really good success rate and I don't have that info. That was in a presentation we did earlier in the year. I had all that data, and I don't have it with me today. But we have had several AP Capstone diploma earners from actually all of our schools, our 5 Capstone schools. Obviously, the most have actually come from Eastridge. Eastridge has a very successful AP program.
Okay, that totally answers my question. Thank you. That's a good reason.
So the next slide is kind of where I know one of the other questions, well, the next slide's the ACE resources. Again, this is all in ESSER, as well as a lot of these things are going to start being self-sustaining. Leesburg High is really close to being self-sustaining, actually, after this last year of exams. So we really will help them with ESSER so they have like a nice nest egg, and then they'll be fully sustainable by the time we get past any ESSER funding. And actually, our other two, Umatilla and South Lake, will be right there on their heels as well.
So IB and ACE both bring back weighted FTE, is that right?
Correct.
But AP
As well as
Capstone does
AP.
not. Oh, does it now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, they all do.
So do you not foresee the AP Capstone conflicting with the ACE program at the high school?
Say that again?
Will they not conflict like you just spoke about?
So that's what I want to talk about. That's my last slide. Because I know that was the other question that came up in that November workshop. So I had a lot of conversations with different people about this, because I'm like, okay. Because I think part of me kind of thought it might at one point, which wasn't my original thought of stacking programs at schools. But then speaking with some different people with different experiences using the Cambridge program in different places, the way someone explained it to me helped me, right, kind of think through how the possibility of having multiple programs at a school. So it's kind of the idea, so we can go to the next slide, please. The idea of a Cambridge school versus a Cambridge program at a school. So we do have some schools like Leesburg, the vision of that leader and what's happening at that school, they are a Cambridge school. So at a Cambridge school, like your AP program does suffer. It kind of gets eaten up and goes away. Outside of AP Maths and those higher AP Sciences, because those are still in the ACE program, the ACE higher Maths, really you need AP Calculus and AP Stats. It's actually the better path for students when you're looking at going to college here in the U.S., as long as some of those AP Sciences. So in a Cambridge school, which tend to be some of your smaller schools, Umatilla, same thing's going to happen. The AP courses are going to get kind of eaten up because you have less student population, less teachers. So it's really hard to sustain preps for AP Lang, AP Lit, ACE Lit, ACE Lang, right? So you start getting like really thin in terms of teachers and students who can sustain all the programs. So those, some smaller schools will tend to end up being Cambridge schools, right? A Cambridge program, it's just a program within a school like anything else. So at an Eastridge, let's use that as an example, giant school, we'll have AP program, so you have the capstone option. Students can go into the ACE program. They have the HSCA program. They they have dual enrollment. So there's multiple programs within schools. And there are many schools within the state that sustain large, they're the large schools, that's just the truth, that sustain both an AP, a strong AP capstone program, as well as an ACE program. So it is possible, and for me, it was really helpful to think Cambridge school versus Cambridge program at a school that has a lot of programs. And so you kind of have, back to the menu, you have many options for the student to pursue within their high school career. So that was kind of the best way I could think of to explain that. But you will see, there is competition. And sometimes competition isn't bad when you really look at stepping up all of our programs, so.
And I don't know if it's helpful, but I've noticed at Leesburg High School that even students that don't graduate with the ACE diploma can very much take ACE courses.
Correct.
And so then they're still getting excellent, like, advanced biology type ACE advanced biology is very much like a college level AP course. So they do conflict, but also the kids still then have a good path, whether or not they actually get the actual ACE diploma. They don't actually have to have that, and they can still have the coursework along the way that will be good for their college, whichever they choose to go to.
Right, and the ACE courses, again, part of the beauty of ACE is that it can be very flexible. So you can have students who are diligently and intentionally working towards that ACE diploma, and then you may have students who just dip in and take the ACE general paper. That counts as in English. They get if they pass the test, they get a college credit for it. So you have options there too. We call it a la carte versus the cohorted program for ACE, which is like AP. AP's like that. You can be strategically working towards your AP capstone diploma because you have to have research and seminar and those 4 courses along the way. Or you can just kind of dip in and take the AP course subject area that interests you the most. So it does have that kind of flavor to it as well, the ACE program. Unlike IB, which is very, if you're taking IB courses, you're working towards an IB diploma for the most part, I would think. So that is my last slide, unless you guys have any other questions that you would like me to address or take note of and get back to you on.
I mean, personally, I'm excited about this expansion. For a long time, I've had my doubts, honestly, of AP in our district because I just haven't seen the success that you'd hope for, I guess, with students. And I don't know if this is a professional development piece. I don't know, because we send folks away to AP conferences every year, but still our passing rates on AP exams are significantly below the state average in a number of places, significantly below the national average in a lot of places. And I go, why? Because then I see the ACE at Leesburg just really thriving and doing very well, and these kids are walking away with a much higher percentage of diploma than AP capstone, so I think that's a piece. AP capstone really locks you in that I have to take AP research, I have to take AP seminar. If you don't pass either of those, diploma's out, right? And I think the way IB works is that even if I don't pass one exam, if another exam I've got an above passing score, they can balance each other out and I can still get the diploma. And AP doesn't work that way. So you really, it's much more narrow criteria to get the diploma.
Yeah, right. And I mean, again, we have to remember that that College Board program is very new. You know, so it'll be interesting to see how it evolves as well over the years. It is gaining some notoriety. It does now have the weighted diploma option in terms of funding like IB and A. So it's evolving, I think, and so we're getting there. But I agree with the pass rate scenario.
So the other question about this, and I wonder if maybe this is deterring some kids from pursuing an AP capstone route that normally would excel in it, is that, or at least at Eastridge High School, a lot of the AP courses are 2 periods. And a kid's like, I don't know if I want to dedicate 2 periods to AP research or 2 periods to AP seminar. And so I wonder how many don't pick it because of that. When we look at these IB and ACE courses, are they designed to be multiple periods, or is this kind of
So IB, I don't know enough to tell you the answer to that yet. ACE, they are not scheduled multiple periods at this time. Okay. They're single period courses. All right. And what they do with AP, now seminar research, I don't know that I realized that was being blocked necessarily, but like AP Calc, they'll block a student by doing like the high school calculus, honors calculus and an AP calculus blocked together. 2 different course codes, 2 different courses, but 2 periods together to give them that additional foundation for success on the calculus. So that I've seen, I'm not sure about that other piece. But, I mean, it could be a deterrent. It would be something to survey students on, right? And kind of get an
I do know
understanding.
a high-performing student personally who's like, I'm not gonna spend 2 periods on that. And I was like, okay, I don't blame you. You know,
Yeah.
particularly if, you come off your 9th grade year and you haven't found success already in the AP courses that they've, that you've landed in. It's just,
Yeah.
I think the low percentage of passing rate just kind of discourages some kids from wanting the best more and more in that.
So we'll see. I think it's exciting to have options and to make sure that our students have the same opportunities here in Lake County that they do in our surrounding districts. So to me, that's the most exciting piece.
Any other board members, online or present? Okay.
No, the only thing I would say is I agree. I think options are great. I think it's an individual choice, and, I think kids need to be able to choose the one that suits them, and if we're gonna be responsible if we're going to be a responsible school system, then we need to do our best to make sure we have that as an option for them. So thank you and your staff for your work on that. We appreciate it.
It's been a lot of work. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. We're going to take 5 minutes because I've got to use the restroom. So 5 minutes and we can transition to the math textbook adoption. We are back in session, and Mrs. Cockcroft, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Chairman Luke, Superintendent Carnegie, and board members for allowing me to come today and speak with you about this year's instructional materials adoption. I would like to start by recognizing some team members that I have with me. For my elementary team, I have Megan Randolph, the manager for curriculum, and Tracy Wood, the math program specialist. And then for middle and high, I have Seth Edwards, the curriculum manager, and Brett Fontenot, the math program specialist. In addition, I'd like to recognize Dr. Faith Harris, who was very involved in this process, but has since taken a position as an AP at one of our elementary schools. So we will be transitioning and having Kelly Dodd join us in that position. So we're excited about that. All right, I tried this and it worked. I'm doing the down button.
It did work, I saw it.
Yep, thank you. All right, so our mission and vision in Lake County Schools really drove our beginning conversation around the materials that we wanted. What exactly did we want our students to experience in our classrooms so that they would have the skills needed to succeed in post-secondary workforce or a career, depending on what they wanted to be able to select. And then we started thinking about what materials would they need to have that happen as well. As we went through that and what that would look like for our students. We did have the opportunity prior to the ELA adoption to join with other districts in a learning cadre around high-quality instructional materials and what that would take in order for materials to be determined as high quality, what that adoption process would look like, and then just some sessions around mathematics instruction as well as the ELA instruction. Our math program specialists had a few opportunities. They didn't have as many as the ELA did, but essentially the processes that we gained from that through the ELA, we were able to apply to the math adoption as well, and we continue to get feedback from our teachers about that process. This timeline here starts with our second semester. However, this process actually began last year when we started visioning our what we wanted our math classrooms to look like. And then we sent out surveys to our teachers. We surveyed our math teachers around their current materials and how what their perception was on those, as well as what they wanted to see in their next set of materials. We took applications for a district-wide teacher committee. We then selected one teacher from every school to serve on that committee. And prior to the start of the second semester vote here, they had 4 training sessions with Brett and Tracy where they really dug into those best standards, as well as what high-quality materials would have in them in order to meet the needs for our students and them as well. Notice in this timeline here, we added an area that we have not done before, and those were community nights for our parents prior to narrowing that down to the final vote that we had. We allowed them to see this, have an opportunity to see the same materials that our teachers were going to look at. And we did one of those per region. From here, we will go to the hearing that'll be posted starting tomorrow and have the hearing on February 28th, and then the final vote we hope to have take place on March 28th. The materials, the recommendation for adoption, those materials will be available online beginning tomorrow and continuing all the way through that March 28th meeting. So parents will have and community members would have the opportunity to view them that entire time, as well as coming to the LRC if they prefer not to look at those online materials. We are already beginning gathering our numbers for our orders so that the minute that we get the approval, we'll be ready to go forth with the ordering of those materials, as well as beginning the ordering now for those consumables that we already have adopted in previous years. So we start with the district committee that encompasses many of our departments and taking a look at those materials that we have and evaluating them through all the different lenses that the committee members serve. Here is our elementary teacher committee members, and then our middle and high. It's important to note that Lake Point had a teacher representative both on the elementary and the middle, and then the Lake Success member was spread between the middle and the high. She's attended both of those meetings and trainings and served in both of those capacities. So the survey, we sent the two surveys I was telling you about at the beginning of the year, and we asked them to reflect on their current materials first. 78% of those that responded said they use their textbook daily, with 57% saying they modified or supplemented it with every use or often. They felt the materials did not meet the needs of their students or did not have quality practice problems, and that's why they were doing that. On this slide, you will note that almost 74% said they were using Teachers Pay Teachers to modify. And as a district, we want to be sure our teachers have the instructional materials that align with their needs, their students' needs, and they don't have to spend their time creating or purchasing other materials. We also know that we want our students to be able to receive that guaranteed and viable curriculum across every classroom and every school in our district. So on the survey for what they wanted for their new materials, teachers indicated that what was most important to them, that they were aligned to the new standards, including the MTRs or the mathematical reasoning standards, and the content is mathematically accurate, comprehensive, and understandable, and that the materials will meet the needs of all their students. So these were considered to develop the rubrics that we're going to be using, that we used, for elementary and middle and high. Our middle and high survey indicated some of the same things with the exception of how often they were using it. 15% of teachers said they used their current textbook daily, and another 23% said they only used it 1 to 2 times a week. 87% said they modified it with every use or often, and 60% said that they did not provide enough practice opportunities for the students. And as you can see, they also are using Teacher Pay Teachers to make those adjustments. Just like the K-5 teachers, our middle and high school teachers want their new high-quality instructional materials to be aligned to the best standards as a priority, and additionally, with a variety of assessments, and they want them to address the critical thinking skills that are aligned with the mathematical reasoning standards so that they can have the skills necessary for post-secondary as well. Oh, that did not transfer well. It looked okay on my slide. All right, this is basically saying that this is a national statistic that teachers spend 7 to 12 hours per week adjusting and creating materials when they don't have the high-quality instructional materials they need to instruct their students. And of course, as a curriculum team, we want to, and the teacher committee, we want to make sure that we are adopting those materials that will meet both the students' needs and the teachers' needs. So we did use rubrics. You have copies of all 3 rubrics in your blue folder. The elementary and the middle and high rubrics align with those areas. There's a few differences in their indicators, but all of the subsections are the same. So that's based on content, teacher support, instruction, assessment materials, addressing the needs of all learners, such as ELL and ESE learners, format and organization, and then community resources. And you'll see that the AP rubric aligns with the AP needs as well. So our elementary team, the teacher committee, reviewed 3 different publishers that they wanted to evaluate against the rubric, and this was what they found. So McGraw-Hill Reveal textbook or instructional materials had the highest substantially aligned rating. This committee had the opportunity to narrow one of those out before sending it to the elementary teachers for review. However, they felt because Accelerate Learning and Savas were so close as a second, they didn't feel one of them should be dropped, and they sent all three for the teacher vote back at the school site. All of our teachers at the school did have an opportunity to review these three materials, put in their individual vote, and then the school submitted one vote. And the outcome from that was that 83% of our schools selected McGraw-Hill Reveal Math, which aligns as well with that teacher committee evaluation using the rubric. And you can see that comment there from some of the teachers, or there's several comments there from some of the teachers.
Not even close.
Not even close, no.
So in the opinion of these teachers, have they truly done a good job at, has this publisher done a good job at aligning to new standards, or did they, just comparatively speaking, are they better than the others, or did they just stick that Florida sticker on the front of the cover, or what happened?
So that was one of the things that they spent some time doing, is looking at the lessons through the lens of one of the new standards that wasn't in the prior standards.
Okay.
Tracy actually took them through that and what would that look like all the way through from kindergarten all the way through fifth grade to see how that would build out. And they based a lot of their evaluation on that then, because it would be one of the new standards and it wasn't just the sticker. So that was good. It was interesting. I was actually in there when they did the training, and when teachers get like a new book to look at, they were looking at this new material, and we're like, it's like candy for us. Like we're like all in, you know. And it was one that we knew would not be substantially aligned in any way. And as the teachers started looking at this and they were training with the rubric on it, you could just see them like their bodies started to sag as they were looking. Oh, this is not. No, this isn't. And their groups, the conversation that they had around it, they thoroughly reviewed it. To be able to find the needs that and how it met the rubric. So I would say yes. Probably more so as we expanded the amount of times that these committees meet. That's one of the biggest changes in our process. I think it has helped.
May I ask, are we going on to middle school next?
We are.
Okay, so while we're still in elementary, in my opinion, and I guess I don't know if that's controversial or not, but I feel that to learn math in the elementary ages, that there really is that concrete pictorial abstract shift that occurs, from the pre-K to like K2. They really need that concrete, and they need those manipulatives, which to the public, manipulative, they're just like toys that help you learn math. Does this
That hurt. That hurt me.
I'm sorry.
I think Stephanie disagrees with that definition.
Well, if I'm explaining triangles, I'm gonna have a little triangle shape, and I'm gonna give you squares, and we're gonna maybe group the triangles into squares, and yet they're just toys that help teach math, right? But without the toys that help teach math, it's really hard to teach math.
Yes.
Maybe Stephanie can phrase this. So my question is, with this series, does it have that?
Does it have the tools?
The tools, and are we paying for them to provide them to the teachers? And and Stephanie, maybe there's a better way of phrasing that, or Miss Luke, I mean.
So the rubric did have those evaluation elements to it as well, and that certainly is the concrete representational portions of math for our elementary teachers. They had high expectations for that as well. So I would say yes, it does. As far as which package we're purchasing, we'll have to take a look at that. I did cost out the most expensive package when I was giving you guys the final dollar amount that we have here. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to purchase all of those things. But again, it goes over the instructional materials allocation dollars that we are provided by the state. I don't know if Tracy wants to add to what is the materials.
Do you want to come up?
The manipulatives are very important, like she said, in the lower grades if they want to do so, hoping that is part of our package.
Yes.
Could you repeat repeat that?
Yes, we will have manipulatives as part of that package. But we did not base it solely on the manipulatives because that was not the primary. Again, teachers love those things, so we did not want that to be our primary decision maker, but we will make sure those resources are available for the teachers.
Thank you.
All right, so on to middle and high school. Our middle and high school committees did look at the same three publishers, and this is where we were looking at Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 as our three main courses we were focusing on, knowing that high school has a lot of other courses as well. So when we're looking at these three, they looked at these publishers. And the teacher committee worked very hard to evaluate these and found that Math Nation stood out higher than the other two. They then also had the opportunity to make a decision on whether they were going to send all three to the teachers or whether they wanted to narrow it down. They decided to narrow it to Math Nation and Carnegie based on those evaluations. And the teacher vote came in with Math Nation being the highest rated at 91%. For that, and again, that's for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. Middle school teachers also had the opportunity to look at the Algebra 1 component of that, as they have that in their schools as well. And then the high school teacher, 100% went for Math Nation. So I separated those votes out. So you can see that both the middle school and the high school agreed that was the best resource for those courses. And then we had these additional courses that we reviewed, and for the review of these books were sent directly to the school for the teachers that teach these higher level math classes so that they would be able to look at the content that went along with what the expectations were for the standards as well. And these are the three publishers that had materials available that were sent to the schools for those. And from pre-calculus, you can see that Savas had the highest vote. And then for Math for College Algebra, it also was Savas, clearly a majority. A little bit different here for the data and financial literacy. It wasn't quite as much of a majority, but it still was. There are some changes to this course expectations too through the new standards. And then Math for College Liberal Arts, 100%, but it was the only material available for this course. This is a new course, so this was the only publisher that had provided that material. And the same thing for Algebra 1A, 1B with Agile Minds. However, we do have some options that we'll work through our schools with. They also can use the Algebra 1 textbook for these courses, depending upon the needs of their math school progression in their school. Then moving into advanced placement, and this was taken care of through the College and Career Readiness Department. And there you can see the committee that worked on this. These three, they did AP Computer Science, AP Stats, and AP Calc. They followed pretty much the same timeline as we did. Again, they used a rubric to evaluate. This is in your packet and is aligned with College Board's requirements. The AP Computer Science materials, they had 7 books to review. You'll notice some companies, some publishers have more than one book that covers a course. They ended up with Savas Computer Science and Overview, the 13th edition. And then these are the AP Stats materials that were reviewed. The same thing here, several publishers have more than one book, and they ended up with the BFW, Practice of Statistics. And then finally, the AP Calculus materials. And they selected the Cengage Calculus AP 11th edition. Their fiscal estimated cost is about $78,600. This is self-funding through the AP department at this point. So total cost for all of the materials, this is an estimate based on the numbers from October counts, and best estimate we can get at this time. As I said, we'll work with the schools through those numbers and the courses. And after AP takes care of their $78,600, that's still $4,038,557.54 for the rest of the materials. The mathematics 9 through 12 figure here does include the algebra and geometry books for our middle schools as well.
And that's the bundle you spoke about with the.
That is the highest bundle for the elementary. They're the only one that had the different bundle costs in there. That is estimating it with that bundle, yes. Not knowing exactly all the differences, and when that, we'll have to take a look at all those packet pieces to make sure that's the one, I think, that has the assessment piece and all that they would need.
Going back to our ESSER funding,
That's
it was like 5.9 million
Yep.
total, but 5 million for math. So this comes in with $1 million to spare, right?
Right.
Alex, continue that
Well,
remediation.
Oh, you're.
But we might want the manipulatives, so we might.
Well,
No,
we
but
do want the manipulatives.
But those are included in this cost.
Those are included in.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
But Alex is
And
not. Did I hear you just say
My
that?
other,
Alex was a different cost in ESSER.
In
my
that
other
same line
question,
item?
sorry.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Burns. Hold on one second.
I'm not sure. That would be a question for Mr.
Okay,
Ward.
I have it pulled up too. I can look too. Okay, Dr. Burns, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Thank you very much. Some of the, some complaints just in general from AP teachers I've heard is that there are that in AP classes, they have course catalog, or classroom sets of books as opposed to, say, calculus, and every student has it. And I think it very much depends on the class, and it depends on the school, and blah, blah, blah. Will these math books be available, the AP ones, will they be enough so that it's available for each student who takes calculus or algebra 2 or whatever to have their own textbook?
Ms.
Is that the
Sellis,
design?
Ms. Sellis is indicating that yes, they would.
Okay, because yes, that has been brought up to me. Thank you.
I have another question unless you guys do. Do you guys have questions? No? Okay. I was just checking. So the timeline, I'm looking through the ESSER dollars too, but the timeline that was on the very beginning of the presentation, where it suggested that the ordering was happening between January and April, is that a true timeline? Because do we order before the March 28th approval?
We are ordering the other materials. We've already started collecting numbers, so the process begins with getting the numbers and
Okay.
verifying those numbers through February FTE. So that process has begun. The schools have the order sheets for the numbers that they need, and then we'll work through the verification. And then we also, so the first orders we will be able to put in prior to this approval even are the other subject areas that are already approved. The consumables that have to be reordered, and those will start shipping to the
got you.
schools.
Okay. that makes
This
sense.
will include,
March
right, we'll have we hope to have the numbers all solidified so that if we get approval on March 28th, we would be able to proceed right away with the ordering.
Right, that's what, I think in the textbook companies' presentations, did they address concerns about production?
Or missing chapters, or
Right.
printed in a foreign language,
I'm
or
just
missing
wondering, like,
pages,
what
or-
was that conversation? Because we know school districts.
Or accidents by trucks.
By trucks.
All those
Or-
things that happened last year, for sure. We did not focus specifically on that. I do know that the publishers are working closely with Florida School Book Depository to have all of that done. And we'll make dual contacts. Not only do we let Florida School Book know, but our publishers are already aware that these are potentially the materials that'll be up for adoption for us, and the potential numbers that we will need so that they can start considering their productions as well. We're a little bit ahead of our timeline at this point already this year, because I believe it was late March by the time we got to you all with the ELA adoption last year.
Okay, is Mr. Ward here?
Ward?
Yeah, I see
Yeah,
that.
no, he's not.
Okay, can somebody find out if that Alex is included in that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it and it doesn't specify. I was hoping I could answer that question for
I
you.
was too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're researching that. I just want to confirm. So the math, at least at elementary level, is consumable?
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess just thinking about the first year, all right, so we're going to keep using this book for years on end.
5.
And maybe the number of students are somewhat unpredictable. Are we budgeting to maybe get extras on hand, so if we are surprised by the number of students we have on opening day, that we just can pull them instead of having to wait for the depository for additional copies, or?
We do two things on the numbers. We look at their current February FTE and their planning, and then we have the schools make adjustments based on things that they know are happening. And then we also work with growth planning to verify their numbers so that we would have some. And we keep an additional, especially early in adoption, we keep additional in our warehouse as well. So
Certainly,
yes.
we'll use them over the next 4 years beyond this, but I guess in your last year, you want to kind of
Yeah.
be more conservative.
Well, our growth has been more stable recently, so we have to consider that as well as the students are coming back from online learning and things like that. It has affected our numbers. So we will take a look at numbers to that, and then some of our schools just have unbelievable growth because of the changes in roads around them and subdivisions. So we do consider that in all of those, absolutely.
Did any of the math 6-8 or 9-12 adoptions come with an online component that would be replaced, that Alex would compete with, or that would, do you understand what I'm saying? Or were they given, I'm sure they've got an online component because I know that's required, but was there any adaptive pieces that came with the 6-12 that might replace or?
There were, I'm gonna look to Brett to make sure.
Not that they would replace what Alex does, just because they're two completely
Different things.
types of programs. But the 6A does have an online complement program that allows students to work online and actively do assessments and practice problems and the others.
In addition, Math Nation has videos that they can view on the instruction, as well as virtual tutors that will be available to them, because we all know how much fun math homework is at night at home.
It's a bad
So,
topic for
can
me
I
today.
ask, why, like, we have IXL too, right? Like, I mean,
As a district, we have Alex. Some of the schools may purchase IXL, but as a district, we have Alex for our remediation.
oh, okay, I didn't know those were school purchased.
I would argue it's not just for remediation. I think that's where, especially looking at the materials and knowing what I know about personal experience and the direction, my question is, my own child literally doesn't use her math books. Literally, they told them to take them home and they sit on the shelf, so I know where they are in my house and they're not used. Alex is used. And so when I look at the figure, and that's your Algebra 1 student, says 7th grader, I just wonder, have we talked to schools about, I don't know what the right answer is here, but have we talked about the use of instructional material? I know that we're required by statute to purchase one. Is Alex our instructional material? It just makes me go,
Can I add to the same, like, just second that sort of question? Because my daughter uses a completely different program for math as well, and it's not Alex. It's an iReady physical book at her school. So that's two examples, and it's something I've been wanting to bring up because we're paying a lot of money for instructional materials for the district, and then I'm seeing schools purchase they call them supplementary instructional materials, but then it becomes the instructional material. So do we have some sort of plan for this? Because she also uses IXL, so.
Well, beginning with the last ELA adoption, we did spend a lot of time, and same with the math, we did spend a lot of time reviewing these materials and what it takes to have high-quality materials. Going back to some of those surveys, and the reason teachers weren't using them is because they weren't meeting the needs. So really reviewing these to be sure that they would be materials. And I can tell you those teacher committees, when they met, and they spent 2 days, 2 full days, as well as those 4 evenings, it was very important to them as well to have a material that they did feel was usable, that would meet the needs of their students, as well as a teacher that's coming in first year, whether they're teacher trained or not, and a veteran. They wanted to have opportunities for the supplements that they needed, for the materials and the structures they needed for the materials to be able to meet all of the teachers' needs, depending upon their level. So our goal is, and with ELA, we ask teachers, use them. Let us know where the gaps are and let us fill those in as a team on the blueprints with the areas that you need. You know, we don't expect teachers to be spending time creating and going away from those. As far as Alex goes, Alex has been communicated that it is an intervention tool and is not a core material. So I'd be glad to have a conversation around that. Julie Staten and Brett Fontenot work very closely together, monitoring the usage of that and training teachers on what that should be used for. So that is not the expectation that we've communicated.
You all can probably pull up some usage reports, right, by teacher or by student to find out whether or not it's intervention or primary material, because I think I've seen some of the same sort of thing where Alex is the thing.
It's the thing.
It is the thing, yeah.
Alex is included in that instructional materials line.
Did you want to, it's included in that line? Do they know the cost? Just so you guys know, online, Alex is included in the instructional material line, so we're going to pull up how much of that is, so we have an idea of what's left over.
It all got rolled in.
So, thank you.
And based on this timeline, looks like your folks will get the materials in plenty of time to update blueprints and things of the sort, writing teams over the summer and.
That would be our
That's
hope.
good, that's good.
Yes. We already have access to the online
All right.
components.
Just know it's, from experience, it's so much easier when you got the book in your hand, you can just flip back and forth so easily.
We do have those samples too.
So
So we
that's
do
good.
have the sample, and we did bring some samples if you all would like to see any of those today.
And thank you for the work in the regions. I know that the teams did a lot of work going to the different locations across the county rather than just having one night in a central location. And we appreciate all the work that you guys have done to make that process available to the public.
Thank you.
Yep. Board members online, are you good?
Good, I agree with, I can see the change that you guys have made over the years in how we do textbook adoptions and how much more you're reaching out to the community, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Ditto what Christy said.
And Dr. Burns, I disagree with what you were saying at all. I love that you were asking if we have manipulatives in the elementary adoption. It was that you said toys.
It was that I called them toys, I know.
Yes.
I believe in play, though.
I know you do. I know you do. All right, we are on our 3.04 SIS updates. Mr. Dwayne Weeks is with us today. It's always exciting.
We have.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
I feel special.
Now you got 10 copies. So,
Yeah.
all right. Good afternoon. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about something that is probably one of the most exciting topics you'll have all day, the student information system updates. What we've kind of come to the conclusion is that we need to update our student information system. And so I'll kind of sort of talk you through a little bit of the process that goes on. Before I do that, I want to kind of not only introduce but highlight the person next to me. This is Ashley Rosa. She is the manager of the student information system. And if you've been around Lake County for a while, you know her and all the various roles that she has had. I will tell you this, is that the student information system world, it doesn't seem like it would be, is pretty brass knuckles, to be honest with you. The state is always coming to you with a ton of requirements. And just to give you an idea, this is survey 3 time. We're in survey week, actually. Date certain is on Friday. Yeah, that's burned into our memory. We will send 500,000 records. The state is basically addicted to data that they don't seem to look at that much, to be honest with you. Although I will say the part that we do look at is that she, running through this office, is things that relate directly to our funding and to our accountability. And I hate to say this, is that school districts can do all the good hard lift of doing all the work, but if you don't report it correctly, they don't give you any money and they won't give you a school grade. And so, or at least one you'll want. And so I guess the thing I was gonna say is that Ashley's team has done such an amazing job of giving us a high quality of data over the last couple of years that she's been in charge of it. Out of that 500,000, 500,000 records, we have about 80 of those records that have some kind of issue that would keep them from going to the state. And if you think of the percentage of accuracy, if you would have gone back in time, you would have seen districts struggle with thousands of edits, and they've got it down to a science. I think the right team in the right place is part of what led us to this point today, because to be honest with you, I've already done a student information system conversion, and I swore I'd never do another one, just simply because, like, they're a lot of work, to be honest with you. We, just to give you kind of a background, I converted off terms to another student information system that we'll be discussing today. And it's not an easy lift necessarily, but I will tell you is that if it's the right team and the right work, it's totally worth it, because Right now, I would also like to advocate for, there's a lot of people that touch the student information system, obviously teachers, we'll talk about that in a second, but our data clerks are also heroes in the school district in the fact that what they report is just essential to our work, and because of that, anything that we can do to streamline the process, provide a better product for both teachers and parents specifically, I think is something that we would want to back. I will tell you this, is that how this process started is that in our 5-year technology plan, we had decided we were going to evaluate the student information system every couple of years. And so what I did is that we went to stakeholders, very specifically administrators and data clerks, and as a result of that, we asked them quickly, like, do you want to look? Like, do you want to even just investigate what another student information system could be like? Just to give you a history, you know, we've had Skyward for about 8, almost 9 years at this particular point. The system is solid for sure. It's also fairly static. It doesn't change much. If you got training on it 8 or 9 years ago, it's pretty much verbatim the same thing. That's good in some ways, but it also doesn't provide the chance for some updates that we would need to consider in the last little bit. I think one thing that we noticed very quickly during the pandemic is that, honestly, online registration was going to cost us a big chunk of money. If we would have done it in Skyward, it would have been a while to implement. And so how do we provide a better service to our parents by providing the ability to, and when you think about that process, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, I go to a school, most of the time, there's a backed up line to some extent, right? And if you've been in a school during the peak registration times, you know that. I you know, as a parent, I go ahead and write the information out. I then hand it to somebody to key in, which seems like a missed opportunity there, right? And I can't even do any of it from my house. I have to come to the school, right? Knowing that on Fridays that we're closed, right? Like, and so realistically, it's like, how can we speed that process up? And that's just one or two of the processes. And the first page, obviously the cover, the second page is kind of a little bit more of the rationale we went. We talked to these stakeholders groups, even though only about 55% said they wanted to look, it was enough for us to do a demonstration of another student information system. And then that ratcheted up to about 78%. In fact, they started scaring me a little bit because they're like, we want it now. And we're like, not now, not today or anything like that. But I think they saw immediately the benefits. And so we started to continue to have those conversations with district stakeholders, with administrators. Like I said, all of the principals and the school level administrators were invited to it. And then, of course, the data clerks were there as well. And so at this particular point, one of the things that we are looking at is that we started studying kind of the mystery to some extent of how we would consider to do it. And there is another student information system in the state of Florida that is pretty well used. It's 45 districts deep, to be honest with you, so I won't say we're on the cutting edge. I will say we'll do it better potentially than other districts. I have a strong confidence in that. But 45 districts is a pretty well-worn path. At this particular point, the things that sort of stuck out to us, and on page 3 we kind of talk about the benefits, is we started looking for ways in a time when there seems like there's so much to do in a student information system, which, by the way, I also want to honor the work to convert to that student information system. That team, that's not an easy job. And when I talk about Skyward, I also want to be specific that I'm not talking about Skyward Business at this point or possibly ever. So I think it's important to kind of sort of focus on the student side. But what we started looking at is we started looking at what would the advantages be to people, not just to have another program for a program's sake. And some of the things that we started looking at is that, and we can go into more detail at a later point if you'd like, there was these integrations, these things that just made it easier. For teacher, there's an integration between Google Classroom and the grade book, so the grades just come over to some extent. Now, granted, I know that in some ways Google Classroom has kind of an interesting thing. It's as good as the instruction that's put into it, right? And so you want to make sure that you're not just creating like this automation that doesn't actually drive good instruction. But I will say this, is that if you've got things and you're doing great things, and our instructional technology facilitators can teach people how to do great things using the Google Apps for Education, why wouldn't you want those grades just to come over automatically? Like, why do you want to have them entered here to enter there, or some of the things are even self-grading to some extent? I think one of the main things that we saw is that the grade book seemed considerably faster to some extent too. I know you all know, if you've been a teacher, you know the all-powerful slidey thing. If you've been in a classroom, you know what I'm talking about. It's the thing that does this, that helps you to calculate your grades because it says you have -2. It seems like a small benefit, but Focus Gradebook actually has it to where I can just say I have 2 incorrect. It already knows how many questions were asked, and it calculates it for me. I know it doesn't seem like a big thing, but when you take that and then you look at the piles of work that teachers are grading, it speeds their life up. And it's just those little opportunities that we saw. Better reports, like I said, it had a seating chart that even did contact tracing to some extent, and hopefully we're past that, right? But if we're not, it has a positive behavior system that is pretty customizable that would be put in place, and it just seemed like it had a lot of things for teachers. I will tell you this, is that the one thing that we heard when we talked to administrators very specifically is that they wanted to be able to get data out, and getting data out of our current student information system is a bear. It's just tough. It's the nature of the database. We've made some, I think, incredible progress with Ashley's team, but I will say this, is that we are now required by the state to get data in there fast to get data to them. The state reporting mechanism, as it used to be, is you had it 4 or 5 times a year that you really struggled with data. Now they will send you a spreadsheet and they're like, you got 2 weeks to fill it up. And it may not even be data that you've collected. And the other thing we need is that in Skyward, it's a little difficult to add a field fast or to populate that field fast. And the new student information system, should we go this direction, it's a few clicks, to be honest with you. And so it's almost like an erector set where you can sort of build what you need as far as data collection, and I think that's important. The master scheduling and the scheduling, we think administrators, they seem to really, really like. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit, too, about the data clerk piece, because I think this is a big deal. Right now, in some of our processes, the ESE process to get it to state reporting is pretty tough. It's done in Peer, which is a perfectly great system. It's endorsed by the state, so that's where the IEP originates from. But a lot of times, once it's entered into Peer, it's printed out and then handed to the data clerk, so it gets entered as required for what's required for state reporting. So if you think about that, it's again kind of a weird process. Sometimes it comes in on paper to go into one computer system, to get printed, to come into another computer system. Focus will have a Peer integration, and so what will happen is that information will automatically come over to Peer, which will relieve reams of data entry for our data clerks, honestly, who are kind of sort of ground zero in that. It also has a Florida Shots integration, which is basically immunizations can just basically be drawn in instead of having to type them in. And if you've ever had to sit and type in immunizations, it's a party. So I think the other thing too is it has a faster piece where students that are transferring out of district but within state, faster is a Florida standard. We can basically kind of do what is almost like what universities do when they electronically sort of suck in a transcript and create the record, then we'll be able to do that as well too. And again, this could be game changing for our data clerks. I will say this too, and I'll let Ashley talk about this. I think something else is important is that we've really built relationships with the data clerks. I don't know if you wanted to say something about that.
So over the past 2.5 years, we really have taken time to hear from our data clerks. We meet with them monthly. We provide training and support, and we also do the verification labs where the data clerk and the administrator will come in to validate FTEs. So we really have a partnership with the data clerks. We try to listen to them as much as we can, get feedback. Like Dwayne said, how is it working at the school level? How can we make the process better? So ideally, we really want a system where we're able to make those changes so we can take their feedback into account.
Yeah. And the IT people seem to like it pretty well too. So I think the last thing I would talk about, and this obviously is much deeper than just like an infographic to some extent, like we're very, very aware. The secret sauce in this on whether people will like it or not is in the project implementation. Like, if I'm just being honest with you, and these things can be a little bit interesting or difficult. And so what our department is going to recommend in the next little bit is we've been working through the procurement to see what it would cost. I will flat tell you, in a 5-year cost, if we're doing apples to apples, it will be $500,000 less than Skyward. So we've already done that 5-year cost analysis that we'll bring to you once the agenda item is finished. We're waiting to get some last information. Focus has also given us the first implementation year for basically free. I think they're very interested in having Lake County as a customer because we rule, I guess. I don't know. It's a situation to where they've been very good to us in that respect. But I guess what that keeps us from doing is having to pay for one student information system. Like, we're going to have to pay for Skyward. There's a point in conversions you have to pay for basically 2 years, if you get what I'm saying, on top of each other. And this would sort of keep us from doing that. We would start the data migration, and this would happen through January and June. That's a lot, there's a lot of data to move, and there's a lot of testing of the data, and that's the first phase. But I think the most important thing is that unlike maybe other implementations, we would actually have stakeholder meetings in which we are going to bring in district folks, school folks, data clerks, and make sure the screens, because it is so customizable, look like they make sense to our processes. And I think that's something that's super essential to us, is to include the stakeholders and that, and I think the relationships that Ashley has built is there. You can see through July and December, basically, we would go through and we're gonna be validating data, we're gonna start testing transcripts to make sure they're calculating GPAs correctly, and then we would do another data migration, because there's, like I said, two boats worth of data migrations there. And then we would start redefining the processes, and then you would not see us actually even go to anybody, because right now I am very sensitive to the fact that this has been a tough year, if I'm being honest. And I do think this is going to be good for the district, but we are also knowing that we've been through a lot. The first time anybody would see even any advanced training would be September or October of the upcoming school year. And we would actually be looking to schedule, at least our recommendation would be to schedule, starting in January or February of, well, that makes it 2023 for the 23-24 school year. So it would go live in about a process of a year and a half, and we would have a lot of conversations. I think the training is absolutely near and dear to my heart. I'll tell you, you can have the best product in the world, and you can have the best team behind it. If the training's not good, or the training's not thorough, or we miss spots, you'll know very quickly. And so I think that'll be very, very important. But I do think this represents an incredible opportunity for the district to really modernize. Like, I am looking forward to, the parent portal is going to be really kind of wild to some extent, because we can actually build things and push more data in there that I think will be very, very useful, and we just have a lot of excitement around the possibility. If you're wondering, and you'll see it more, it would be purchased out of ESSER funding, ESSER 2. It goes back to ESSER 2. We had reserved it at that point, or at least the option, and the state has seemed to have approved it, so.
Okay.
So any questions?
Board member questions?
I just have one.
Mm-hmm.
I have lots of confidence in Ashley. She saved me lots of times.
Me too.
No problem there.
Thank you.
My question though is, you mentioned the ESC component, where it would automatically take the stuff and move it, and I think that's wonderful. My only concern is, at what point are we able to check for mistakes?
For sure.
Because, you know, we have a lot of those that are money involved.
Absolutely.
So is there a process that allows us to catch those mistakes?
So I'm happy to report what some of those processes have started going into place even like last year. And part of what it is that the good thing is that, especially because the system has some of those built in, it's basically every time we have a survey 2 or 3, we have an ESE verification process that now goes on where we run reports and we do check it. And it has been a great thing, because I'm going to tell you, we haven't seen, that has not shown up in an audit yet, because the audit always lags a year behind. But we feel like we have caught quite a bit that, had it made to audit, may result in less FTE. So you are 100% right. The automation is going to be important. The validation is going to be more important, because you got to make sure the stuff moves.
I have no doubt if Ashley's checking.
Thank you.
One of the things I think I probably most enjoyed as a parent was at the beginning of the year, you know, that medical authorization or whatever that form is in Skyward, that I can just go in and update any information instead of filling that thing out 4 times.
Yes. Yes.
My handwriting isn't looking so good by the last one.
Mine either.
So in this sort of system, we still get that kind of ability for parents. We're talking about this incredible parent portal to maybe take more of that sort of stuff online. That my address, I don't know why I have to write it on 12 different sheets of paper. You know?
Update it like
every time.
You know?
Yeah, pre-populating it will be fairly easy, and I also think if there are some things that can be updated, addresses are a little tricky because, you know, a zone school goes to it. But phone numbers should be something that a parent should be able to log in and update, because I'm going to tell you flat out, like, the struggle any district has is their contact information. It's not great. But if we can get that option to parents to update it themselves, then yeah, I think, you know, we definitely will take those shots. But it definitely has that ability.
All right, and so then we can create our own forms as we need, right? For
Absolutely.
collecting information at some point, or that's nice.
Yep.
And so this dollar figure, this is an all-in sort of thing. You don't buy individual modules, or is this like the?
They still, for whatever reason, those companies always break it up like you're not going to have like state reporting or something, which is weird to me, right? But it is broken up into individual modules, but I think it's just kind of sort of an industry
But it buys them
standard.
all.
But it does definitely buys what we want. It does have the ability to kind of expand into these wild options like assessment and stuff like that. I think it's very, very important for us to be very concentrated on what we're doing first, get something successful, and then consider. I have seen districts as of late get ESSER funding, bite off, you know, two pounds more than they can chew, and then they end up with a little bit of an implementation struggle. And I think it's important for it to be careful.
And I guess your go live, we're saying August of 2023.
July 1,
Oh,
2023.
23, 24.
Yeah, for the
Mhm.
23,
Oh,
24
July
school.
1.
Yeah, July 1.
Okay, not August.
Yeah, no. Well, you would technically go through July. The contract years run through July.
Right, right.
And really, we kind of do a year and flip by July, so.
So state reporting would start July 1, but
Correct.
teachers and schools would start using it the August.
So it would be fully live.
Okay, but I'm just kind of thinking about school timeline, right? And so if you can start school on the 10th, teachers would probably come back maybe the 3rd, and then
We have some
people
very.
are registering over July, right? So I'm just
Sure.
wondering, if are we gonna, while they're registering, be in two systems?
You won't necessarily, we've gotten pretty good, like, I will say conversions have gotten better. They used to have these parallel times where you ran twice and it was a
Right.
pain. At some particular point, we've gotten better to where you can reduce it to a week or two.
Okay.
But we'll be testing online registration because you'd be registering for the upcoming school year. That would actually be able to go live sooner,
Okay.
which would be good for that summer crush. So.
Mr. Mathias and Dr. Burns, do you guys have anything?
I've got a couple. So you said, and by the way, before I start, I think I would love to see Mrs. Luke and Mr. Weeks in a speed speaking contest.
Also, that'd be quick.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that this approach is 500,000 less than Skyward. What is the cost of this?
Over the 4 years, I think we can pull it up real quick. We're gonna have it on when it comes to the agenda, we'll have that 5-year analysis. We were waiting on one kind of sort of tightening of details by Skyward. But Skyward over 5 years, if we included the online registration just to make apples to apples, which right now we
Should
currently
we
don't.
stop for a second?
Oh, yeah, so what I was gonna say is, yes, and the number for Skyward student that we have right here is 2,115,000 over a 5-year cost, and then Focus would be $1,477.
And ultimately, what
So
happens to Skyward? So we would not renew those modules?
Right, so we would still need it for next year, and at the end of the year, we would migrate all the data over to the new student information system, and then as of July 1, we would turn it off. We might ask for an extra month or two just to have a little bit of cushion, but generally as a rule, I think we feel pretty good about the data migration team and their ability to
But
evacuate.
you mentioned that does not affect the business module.
This does not affect the business module.
So we still would have a relationship with Skyward.
Correct.
And does this company offer the same business model?
Not currently, not one that's viable in the state of Florida.
Okay, and then how do the two integrate, the Skyward and these folks?
There are a couple points of integration. There's something known as the SBAA. It's basically our internal accounts, and so we would build. Basically, what you do is you build where they swap files back and forth. It's pretty common. There are districts that are on one student information system, like Focus, and then Skyward for business. In fact, interestingly enough, Skyward is not even the same system for business as it is for student. It's the same brand for sure, but they're separate systems, separate databases, separate everything. So we would replicate that process.
Okay, looks amazing. As always, you guys do just absolutely stellar work. So thank you.
Yeah, great team.
Dr. Burns?
Well, I'm excited about increasing efficiencies through technology, so I think that's always something we should be pushing for. You can get a lot of cost efficiencies, and I think that we really will realize that. I wanted to ask about, does this integrate with Performance Matters?
It does. Currently, it does.
So
for
we'll
sure.
be able to pull over, like, for example, I was thinking, like, when we have kids that, you know, they've missed so many days and they've hit a flag.
Mm-hmm.
Will that flag now show in Skyward so that maybe the parents we'll have more integration?
Yeah,
Is
so-
that possible, or I
so-
just don't know?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think one of the things with Performance Matters is we brought it as the ability to kind of sort of, at the time, create some reporting that wasn't available in Skyward. I think what you will start to see is some of that reporting go back home to the student information system. And then once that reporting goes back home, then it's available for parents easily through the portal. So that is kind of our goal. It's not that Performance Matters, because it also does our local assessments as well, our LSAs. But the ability to ship data back and forth in between systems will increase. In fact, in the past, I've moved iReady data to Focus. We've moved all kinds of data that you can make available to parents that might not, you might have to go to separate programs to go. You know, that one-stop shop is always the goal, right?
That's awesome.
Excellent, excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
Okay.
It's always
Thank
informative.
Thank you.
Always informational. Yes.
Thanks.
So we are on board member comments. I think I'll start with Mr. Matthias. We'll do online and then
Yeah.
we'll go.
So whoops, wait a minute. I'll go video. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys. This was a great workshop, but I'm looking forward to seeing y'all in person because this is really weird sitting at my desk watching y'all. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Matthias. Dr. Burns?
I'm good, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mrs. Cunningham?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dodd?
I'll defer to our regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to recognize Jane and David from the IT department, since Dwayne is here, that they came on Friday to work with our intern twos that will be graduating in May on we called it the Google. It's so insightful. One thing I will tell you guys is they're getting more advanced. Our students are coming to us with a little bit more knowledge now than we've seen, and I think that's only going to benefit our students. And so I appreciate the partnership and working together to collaborate and make sure that they're ready to go whenever they come into our buildings, hopefully in August. And Lawrence, if you would tell him I said thank you, he's been especially helpful with me lately with IT issues. So we have Eastridge High School soccer team, 1 districts, and Eustis High School's girls, Eastridge soccer, and the Eustis High School girls basketball team, 1 districts. And so I just wanted to wish them luck as they travel on to represent us in regionals. We have some strong athletes in this county, so it's exciting. Thank you. Superintendent.
All right. I just want to thank the staff. Lots of hard work was on display today, and I just want to thank you all. It's amazing, and it does represent just the quality of your work and your commitment to our students and our schools and our staff. And so I just want to say thank you. You guys were amazing today. I was very proud.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Johnson? All right, meeting adjourned.